Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Occult Chat. I am Alex Harper, and I'm joined by Hope and Cooper. Hey guys, how's it going?
Hi.
Hello.
Me and Hope are here together in person for this episode. We're excited. We got a ton of questions from you guys. We asked everyone to submit questions, add-on questions for the stream, and we received, I think, probably over 60 questions. We've whittled that down to about 30, and hopefully we can get to all of them, but we may not be able to get to all of 30. Someone says, people are like, in the stream, they're saying,
a confident choice of naming.
the last name. Yeah. Yeah. I thought that was pretty good. All right, that was my idea. Okay.
Should we just crack into questions?
Should we just get right in?
For folks who aren't super great about paying attention to marketing materials, break my heart. This is our Q&A episode. So you guys sent in about 60 plus questions. We filtered through, I think we plucked out like the top 8-ish, and some of them were kind of asking at the same thing, right? Which helped us get the questions. But I think we've even got like, what did you say, Alex? 20, 30 prepped?
Yeah. There's like 28 questions on the slideshow that we decided we could answer. We're going to try and give like the first 8 or 9 questions like a more in-depth treatment, and then we're going to do rapid fire for the rest of them. That's what we're going to do. Let's just jump right in and go to the first question.
All right. Let's go right in.
Here we go.
No, they're not quite married yet, but someone's pushing hard for a vision of the future here on Occult Chat.
It's just a meme, guys. There's no
alliterations are fun.
Any deeper intention with this. There's no secret agenda here. I'm not trying to manifest anything, right?
This is his magic ritual.
No, it's
not. The plot all along. I didn't know that I was here to be your mystical wingman. That's surprisingly in order.
It is. And having a gay wingman is very effective, right? Like
it is. To be fair,
that's a tried and true strategy because it makes you seem less threatening to women if you have a gay wingman.
I have done a couple weddings. I have 9 couples now married under my belt.
Oh wow!
So I'm quite good at this. I take my Taurus sun responsibilities very seriously. So I am available for weddings.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, if we do get married, we probably should have a magician marry us.
You know what, Cooper? You would actually be at the top of our list.
As I should be. I'll do some Jesus-y bullshit if you want. That's what I did for my cousins. That was fine. They were loving it. And what was really fun is hardcore fundamentalist family members came up afterward like, I can feel the presence of God in you. Like, I can tell that you're truly so godly. They were like,
wow.
I'm so grateful you cited scripture in there. And like, you have such a beautiful vision of like the Christly marriage. And I was like, yeah, I consult with people from a lot of different religions and, yada, yada. And they were, and then the bride comes up to me afterward and is like, that's like my crazy Christian sister. And I was like, yeah, you should go ask her about me. She thinks that I have the Spirit of God running through me. And then they're just like hooting and hollering. And I was like, you think that I don't know how to run these people? But I was playing this game long before I jumped into this one. So whatever kind of ministry you need, I can go ahead and do that.
I would want you to do like a kind of Jupiter thing, right?
Yeah, we do a proper.
You're like, you got that perfect sun trine Jupiter.
Yeah, that sun, moon, Jupiter, grand trine.
It is in there, yeah.
Yeah. Once I realized that you had that grand trine, I was like, that makes a lot of sense about
both
Cooper,
trine Jupiter is, you're very Jupiter.
It's loud, and Jupiter is like the only star visible in the sky when I was born, which is fun.
Yeah.
That's
also closest to the moon.
The moon, I think, is on the cusp of being visible, isn't it?
It's close. We're about like 40 minutes off.
Right.
Oh, that's really close.
So it's right on the horizon.
Yeah.
Because, the ascendant is actually not, so the mathematical ascendant in the astrology chart, this is actually kind of interesting, is it's not the actual horizon. Right? So the ascendant point is not actually like the point of visibility. And the point of visibility is actually starts to happen about 5 degrees before the ascendant. So, if your ascendant is, for example, like 10 degrees Virgo, then the planets at 15 degrees Virgo are already visible when the ascendant is at like 10 degrees. So that's just an interesting astrological bit of trivia, is that the ascendant isn't actually the true horizon. So
SOA? What does that mean?
Yeah, what's an S?
Yeah, I don't know what this. I'm not sure what's this.
That's also your being SOA. Avuncular.
Oh yeah, throw that comment out. Yeah.
We will call
I
it a
need
wedding.
Cooper to bind my future millionaire husband to me. We will call it a wedding, though. Yeah, amazing.
Ben, look here now.
All right.
I'm real good at marriage magic.
Okay. All right. Let's
go to the first question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. How do you do that? How do you go to the next one? Oh, okay.
Should be able to do that now.
There we go. Okay, cool. So question number 1 for Occult Chat. What's the story behind all of your biggest "I really made that happen" magic? Anyone want to go first?
I'll go first. Probably, the magic story I have that has the most material, proof of it working, right? That's that it's obvious because it affects something in reality. So I had a debt for about $10,000 that I just basically refused to pay and wouldn't pay. And then the debt got sold to a debt collector, right? And then they started coming after me. And so I did a working with Saturn to try to corrupt the records pertaining to the debt, right? And basically the intention was to fuck up the debt, right? And make it invalid in some way. And if you're a debt collector, you have to prove that you own the debt, right, in order to collect from the other person. And what happened is that the debt collection company lost the record that they owned the debt, even though they sent me a letter in the mail telling me that they owned this debt and they had it, but then all of a sudden it was gone and they couldn't prove that they actually owned this debt anymore, because after I did the ritual, I just sent them a message and where it's because it's your legal right to say, oh, I don't think you actually own this debt, prove it and provide me the purchase agreement for you buying this debt. And then they couldn't come up with it. And so I didn't have to pay the $10,000 that I owed.
Yeah.
And that's my story of very tangible thing that I made happen.
Yeah, that's a really good one, honestly. And this kind of reminds me of what you had said on X about how malefic magic is easier to do than benefic magic because it's easier to tear down
than it is to build. Yeah, it's easier to destroy than it is to create. Yeah.
Always. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say my magic moment was I did love magic, and I was inspired by Kira World. And essentially the idea behind the magic is when Venus and the moon and a third planet are in a grand trine, set up an altar, do some sort of manifestation. And I did it when there was a grand water trine between Venus, moon, and Neptune. Neptune in Pisces, Venus in Scorpio, and moon in Cancer. And I just set up an altar for each of the planets, and I wrote down what I wanted. It was very, very simple. I didn't even cast a circle, really, because I didn't know how to at the time. And an hour later, I was on astroseek.com. And this is when AstroSeek was still kind of a social network. And I had received a message in my inbox, an hour prior to me opening it up. And this is an hour after doing the ritual. And it was my first ever message. I'd never had a message before, and I've had an AstroSeek account for a couple of years at that point. And it was just this guy who was just like, hi. And I clicked on his profile because at the time you could see other people's charts and what their placements were. And what I had written in my manifestation was that I wanted a like handsome, smart Scorpio, Taurus moon man. I was like, that's just kind of what I wrote in terms of my list of requirements. And lo and behold, this guy was a Scorpio rising and a Taurus moon. Yeah,
crazy combination to sign up for.
Yeah. I love a Scorpio Taurus. I love Scorpios in general, obviously, but and
they like me.
Scorpio Tauruses?
Scorpios in general.
Scorpios?
Well, it's because Scorpio has a crush on Capricorn. It's like the one sign that Scorpio really likes is Capricorn. They're like, oh, Capricorn, notice me, right?
It's
like,
true.
like it's the one sign that can make a Scorpio get schoolgirl.
Yeah, but then as soon as I do acknowledge you, you run away because you're terrified of being acknowledged, and you're not used to all of the Sagittarius energy coming that follows, and then they get terrified and are like, oh.
Yeah, it's true. I've definitely, like, in my years have seen Scorpio girlies like just talking about Capricorns nonstop on the timeline too. Like when they're
as they should. Capricorn is highly underrated.
Capricorn is super hot.
Capricorn is the best sign. One of the best. I mean, I don't know. Capricorn and Pisces I both really love. But I mean, I chose to start I love starting new things in Capricorn. When the sun goes into Capricorn, I don't know. To me, there's like, I mean, I would like it because it's like, the descent or whatever. But, yeah.
But I get it. I like it, but that's because it activates my natal grand trine. So that's lovely.
Yeah.
It's great for me.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's your first house, so it's like it's just gonna be felt.
Yeah, it's
so Cooper. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you've got a lot of stories that you.
I do, and I'm trying to think of which ones I like. I mean, certainly, if you read the book, I talk about a few stories in there. Some I talk about a lot on the TL, but maybe I won't talk about when I'm being audio recorded. With some good ones. I think some of my favorite ones, unsurprisingly, are indeed love magics. Yeah, usually not so much for me. Ones for me tend to go weird. They work, but sometimes our friends see what we should have or would be good for us better than maybe we see for ourselves. Is what I've learned from it. My friends who just got married, that was the product of a ritual we did. So I and another one of the kings from the horizon convinced her to dress up all in black in a beautiful dress and went with us to gather leaves in the forest. And then we brought those leaves home and made a crown out of those leaves. And then we adorned her in gold jewelry and brought her to a riverside. And T and I cut the pomegranate and bled the juice on her and had her bathe in the waters and did the conjuration and ritualized Persephone's descent, right? So, and in that, in giving her a fond farewell, the structure of the ritual is that the person who plays Persephone, who takes that role, makes a request. She gets to bring something back. So for adorning her in her descent, upon her return, you get something lovely. So, long and short, she wanted big old true love. So that was part of why we did the ritual how we did. And as fate would have it, they got married exactly to the day 5 years after that ritual. So that was lovely. And during the ceremony, there were seals, there were birds, there were bees, and all sorts of little critters and creatures floating around in the backdrop as they said their I do's. So I think that was one of my favorite recent like bits and baubles of magic that maybe isn't so much a like, I enforced my will upon the world and crushed this thing, but much more of a like, theurgy's fun too.
Yeah, it's really sweet.
That is really cute.
Yeah,
You would be surprised how many of my stories are actually quite nice and friendly. There are some scary ones, but for the most part, I am nicer than I pretend to be.
I believe
it's probably
it.
nicer than mine on average.
Probably, if we're talking about, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the next question. Okay, so this question says, do you think, having been a fundamentalist Christian, I was some Presbyterian / 4 C's sect,
Sure.
in the past, could affect one's ability to be a magician even if they're no longer a Christian? For context, I was baptized at 16, but did not complete confirmation because I thought it was stupid. Is there a contract that stands? So this person wants to know if their prior kind of rituals they did in the church is going to have any effect on their magical practice. Cooper, what do you think? You should start with this one.
Yeah, so I think my answer here is yes, but not so much for the reason that I think you are worried about, particularly because of what we're talking about here. So you probably went through, like you said, baptism at 16, then through confirmation. Cool beans. Nothing there's super concerning to me as far as like a magical vow goes. Maybe if you did one of those like Presbyterian, like you guys get a little weird sometimes, but not really. What I would be more concerned about, and probably what the bigger barrier here is what it means to be raised in that kind of environment for most of your formative years, to have your imagination defined by visions of a brooding, spiteful God who's waiting for you to fail so that he can punish you, of a world that is full of evils and monsters and tricks and wiles and wicked things that must be banished and cast away, of a singular oneness that is the only way that is acceptable, and every other form of deviation is to be obliterated or cast out. I think that programming, that worldview, those core values, that is so much more a burden to you being a magician than any kind of like magical contract you would have made is my take here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You really uncover, how do you say, deprogramming, whatever you want to say.
Yes.
That is much more the barrier here than any of that.
Yeah.
If you were a Mormon, some of the Seventh-day Adventist rituals are kind of fun, but none super intensely binding because they're super, right? They only get 147,000, so they need a lot of you to go to hell. A lot of people. It's a lot. If you didn't know, there's like 9 billion of us.
Wait, what are you talking about?
So in the Bible, there's a passage that references 147,000 people will be saved, right? And everyone else is doomed.
Oh, there's a fixed number for that?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't remember if it's actually a real number or if they bullshitted it through some like.
Right.
I believe it is actually in there.
So what I think is, I mean, I remember that. I know that the Jehovah's Witnesses say something like this: that there's a set number of people that can be saved, and that and what the Jehovah's Witnesses say also is that all the seats are already taken, right?
Oh, I'm wrong. It's 144. It's
144,000.
And it is in the Book of Revelation.
Book of the Bible.
But it specifically says that it'll be 144,000 saints, right? So that's why they're the Seventh-day Adventists, right? So like, they're the saints. They're the ones who are going to be there. But only 144 of them get to be there. Everyone else burns in hell. And it's pre-decided. Nothing you do matters.
Right.
So someone says, I was raised Muslim. I relate a lot to this topic. I want to get initiated into religion so I can cut my spiritual ties with Islam. And so what I would say to that is that it's not necessary to join another religion in order to cut the ties with the one that you were born into, right? Or that you kind of were forced into at its start. And I would actually advise against converting to a different religion just so you can get away from that one, because that doesn't really change the problem. That's like being addicted to heroin and deciding, okay, I'm going to do meth instead, right? So that I can get off the heroin, right? So like basically it's not, you basically just should, what I would honestly say is that you should try and adopt the atheistic mind frame temporarily. You're not going to stay like this, right? But you should try to think like an atheist would for a little bit. Try and see what that mind frame looks like, because, then you can be okay with being sacrilegious and completely ignoring and disregarding any kind of religious precept. And so, because if you've got a lot of hangups about, like, oh, my religion says it's not okay to do this, I think like practicing rejecting the religion or rejecting belief altogether could give you the freedom to you then decide what you believe for yourself if you first practice rejecting what's been put upon you. I don't know.
I think that's a very good like chaos magic-y solution. On the flip side, particularly with Islam, I think, and this is something that I've done with a lot of my Christian friends, right, who maybe are not ready to, Sam, it sounds like you're looking to do the whole infidel jump. Love that. But a lot of my friends are not quite there, right? They're, be they Christian, Muslim, whatever, I believe in magic. I'm cool with that idea, kind of, but I'm terrified. I grew up afraid of it. A lot of my friends, unsurprisingly, are natural magicians, and so in their family, those things are interpreted as a very negative thing. There's a lot of shame, there's a lot of secrecy, and so one of the things that I've found a lot of success with is, rather than trying to get them to totally jump ship, is pointing out like, okay, well, here are the magical traditions that your religion has been practicing for thousands of years, right? Like, there is no religion that does not have a mystical branch. And once you touch one form of mysticism, you're slowly going to start to touch other forms. Because at that point, you're moving away from what I would talk about, the bones, and really into the blood of the divine. And so you're really engaging with that living thing. And because I would argue it is, at the end of the day, the same for all of us. Whichever way you get there. But I think it's so much less important to find a new God than it is to start walking and see what you find along that road.
Yeah, it's also you can kind of open yourself up to a wider frame of what God could be. Ask God to show himself to you. I don't know, or look for
Islam is like, just go to any Iberian version of Islam. Boom, there you go.
Yeah.
I mean, Sufism is an option.
Sufism, or I don't know.
But that's sort of doubling down. I would look into like,
I don't know. I would just. I mean, look. There's lots of.
Start with medieval magics, right? Like, because when we talk about any of the European medieval traditions, all they're doing is taking texts from Spanish texts from Iberia and translating them, right? Like that's mostly what Agrippa's doing.
Yeah.
It's also why he messes up some of the spells and stuff like that. It's kind of funny. But if you don't know your magical history, Greek magic goes to the Muslims for a long time, and then it comes back to the Christians in the Renaissance. So a lot of Islamic magic, particularly from the Islamic Golden Age across North Africa, and particularly in Iberia, where there's this huge mixing of, like in the Basque region, there's this really interesting sort of polytheism that survives really, really, really late into the Christian period. You've also got, so all of the Moors down south and different forms of Islam are there. You've got Christians, and then French Christians, and then the Aragonese, who are kind of like this weird Catalan, weird cultural mix. And so the yada, yada, yada of it is, over these hundreds of years of intermixing and fighting, there's a ton of magical work being done. And it's really funny because the Christian authorities and the Muslim authorities are both like, you guys are bad, you're evil heretics over in Iberia, and we need to come and stop you. And so you get like the Spanish Inquisition and all that good stuff. But none of that really takes. And to this day, Spain is still full of weird esoteric magics. It's also part of why South America, in particular, is such a hotbed for like weird forms of mysticism.
Yeah, it
that
is.
like weirdly are very syncretic, right? It's like, let's make it work, and we'll just call it all God. So like, look there, start there if you're looking for something other than the New Age to maybe guide you out of your worldview.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on. So, okay, next question. I received instructions for a spell for summoning a spirit in a dream. Are there any precautions I should take before attempting?
Yeah. Don't why. So let's not be
That's
jerk,
cool
Cooper.
though, to have a dream about receiving instructions on how to summon a spirit.
Were you asking for this? That would be my first question. Because if so, then great. Congrats, you got what you were aiming for.
Mm-hmm.
If not,
yeah. So
That's a
basically,
good point.
I mean, if
Yeah.
I often receive instructions for what to do with magic in dreams, but
mhm.
it's always because I go to sleep
With the
seeking
intention.
that.
Yeah.
Right. You know, I'm like, all right, or really what happens is that once you adopt the frame that, okay, once you start believing that the instructions come from your dreams,
Mhm.
you will start getting more instructions in your dreams, right? So, you know, like it's kind of like a feedback loop in a way. And so if it's like, if you had been wanting to summon something like this, if like that's been a desire of yours that you've been trying to seek out information on, maybe then do it. If it's not, then you know, that's something that, I mean, that could be okay still, because it could be something that is like gonna, you know, this like kind of transformative kind of like journey, like a, you know, like in a Jungian sense, right? You know, it could be something like that, but it could also be something weird. I don't know. What do you think, Cooper?
No. I think you should do a banishing ritual. I think you should contact a familiar.
Yeah.
My humble take, big quotation marks around humble, on any sort of unsolicited contact from a spirit is no. Because why? What?
Mm.
Why are they bothering to reach out? Gods have no need to, right? Gods don't need worshipers. They don't give a fuck. The gods are, right? That is what they are. So they're not going to bother reaching out to you. If you reach out to them, they might answer you. That's different. But if you're just getting unsolicited messages from a spirit, even if it was some lovely like a true like platonic spirit of benevolence, right? Like let's imagine best case scenario, this spirit is truly trying to help you. I still wouldn't do it. I would maybe do. Yeah.
Sorry. I was cutting you.
No. Jump in.
I was just gonna say, and so do you have that same take for like shamans? Because you know, across like different cultures, like a person who has some sort of spiritual gift, right, may be contacted by their ancestral spirits or their indigenous spirits, whatever is closest to their roots, and they'll experience like a illness, like a spirit illness, and
yes,
they really have no choice but to take on the call, or if they don't, you know, their life essentially ends up in ruins. Like, what's your take on that?
So that's what I call halifaction, or being hallowed, HALLOWED, right? So this comes from the Catholic hallowing, right? Like saints. It's
Okay.
spirits have the ability to alter your own spirit, right? And so a hallowed person, unlike a magician who does it themselves, a hallowed person has it done to them, usually by a higher spirit. So when we talk about like in an ancestral line, so I have a friend who is Hmong, and her the men in her family tend to be chosen as shamans in their family, right? So her brother is training for that, and so I got to attend a ceremony and talk to her grandfather a little bit, and that was really interesting. But he had a I would describe him as hallowed. So to me, one of the big differences between a hallowed magician and either a natural magician or a practiced magician, one of the two, is that they tend to be, like you said, there's no choice. It's not an option. It's not I don't get to being hallowed is rough, in my opinion.
That's what I've heard too.
But you do get like instant magic powers. It really does. It is instant. It is instant. The moment you are hallowed, you are changed. You are no longer truly human.
Interesting.
Whereas a magician, it tends to be slower, right? It's a long process. In natural magicians, there's never a time where you're not connected. So there's no turn on moment. But for the hallowed, like you were describing there, it is sometimes it's pleasant. It's not like a negative thing. And if you listen to a lot of the stories of like saints and stuff like that, a lot of them will describe a moment where they have an encounter with God and it changes them fundamentally. A lot of mystics talk about losing, like they might start to view themselves, particularly very interesting, like Black folk magicians, like Christian magicians in the US. A lot of them would start referring to themselves in the plural or like in gender neutral ways. After being hallowed and starting their healing journey, which is really interesting. And like there's Hildegard of Bingen. There's like this old tradition of people who I would describe as hallowed, losing touch with some of that humanness, right? And in exchange for that, you become more like whatever entity hallowed you.
Right.
You tend to be very, very, very powerful at certain things and then kind of pretty useless at everything else. So it's a big trade-off. I would not seek it out. Most people don't, though. Like if you're hallowed, you're just hallowed. So that would be my take on that.
Yeah. Okay. So like there's a difference between like being hallowed and a spirit contacting you in a dream and telling 100%. You to contact it. Like if you're hallowed, like there'll be very clear signs that that's what's happening.
I think that the biggest thing to come down to here is like, if this is something that is already part of your practice where you like routinely receive instructions in dreams. That's one thing.
Right.
But if you've asked for it, that's one thing. If it's just totally out of the blue, then it's probably not going to be a good idea. But on the other hand, it could be a terrible idea. But how are you going to know for sure unless you try it?
the Alex Harper advice.
And so, you could do it and then fuck yourself up and then have to devise a way to save your own ass. And then that will help you grow
as a magician.
So you could just do it for the plot is what I'm saying. Right? You could just be like, fuck it. Let's see what happens.
He's a Gemini, by the way. I don't know if anyone was able to tell.
I'm so glad that I made it back in time for this. Yes, but what I would do is if you have a trusted spirit or something like that, you should be using them to vet the information you're getting. And that's just general practice for the record. Like, it blows my mind that people don't have familiars. I just don't get it. How are you talking to spirits without a familiar? You really trust your
I don't know what a familiar is. Whenever you say that word, I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, let's add it to the Q&A.
We haven't got to that part.
Yeah, we'll get
to that part yet.
Do we have a question about that word that can come up?
A lot of times you're given a familiar. Like my familiar right now is my dead cat. It's
usually a dead pet, lots of times.
So,
Oh, that was another fun magic. Not to answer that question again. I brought my friend's dog died and she was really bummed. And I was like, well, I don't think I can bring the dog back to life. but I could forcibly reincarnate the soul and you'll get a new pet like within a couple days. How would that go? And she was like, that sounds great. And then there were 2 kittens delivered on her doorstep the next night.
Why did it
She
split?
loves them, but they're evil.
No, why did it split into 2? Why do you think that happened?
Because it has to change. So I can't bring back exactly what it was because that would be resurrection, right? So
Right.
That would be
I
what?
can give you
Resurrection. Okay.
but I can give you the same spirit as it's been changed, and so when you die, it breaks apart, right? So it was very soon after. So halves felt about right. And it's really quite funny because the cats are very obviously enchanted.
Right.
And it's a problem, but it's fine. A little Pet Cemetery vibes going, bro. Oh my god, look here now. I mostly wanted to prove that I could do it.
Next question. Let's get to the next one.
Yeah.
Okay.
There we go. Can you give advice about exercising / training your capital W will?
Okay. So, I mean, one thing that I would suggest for this is like an easy thing to do that you can do. Now, it's obviously biased towards, the type of magic that I like, but I really like making talismans. I'm known for making these talismans. I just did the Jupiter talismans, but long before I ever did any kind of planetary talisman, I would do personal talismans that were just imbued with my own will, right? And one of the easiest ways to do this is you get the talisman, whatever it is, a piece of jewelry, a bracelet, even a piece of string tied around your wrist can be as simple as that. And then you just every day you pick like a number of times, like 10 times, 100 times, whatever it is. You just repeat the intention of the talisman into it over and over and over, right? And then you just do that every day. And then eventually it builds up and it becomes active, right? And you can do this, like I would prefer to start it out with a big ritual, right? Do like a formal ritual to be like the first time you do it, and then just keep following up and adding on to it. And then you can start to see the power that your own will has when you start imbuing an object with your energy. Then you can get a proxy for a sense of how strong it is. And yeah, I don't know.
And can either or both of you guys kind of explain what the will is and like why someone would want to train it for magical purposes or whatever it is they want to do, whatever someone would want to do with capital W will?
Yeah, I can jump in on the dictionary definition of it here. And you're going to get some disagreement, right, from different folks. But broad strokes, when we talk about capital W will, it's a lot more than like want or desire. It's much more fundamental. Oftentimes, if we were to put it in maybe modern psych terms, you would talk about like subconscious desire. Maybe the id is, if we go with like a Freudian psychology structure, the id is the source of the will. It's that base impulse at the core of your being. So if you are in alignment with your will, which is what a magician is trying to do, it isn't changing that impulse. That's the trick, right? It's finding out what that impulse is and every interpretation thereafter. So in the beginning, like kind of like stuff like Alex is talking about, really what you're doing at that point is you're finding that concentrated intent, which is also a part of will. But capital W will is a much deeper, more fundamental expression of desire. It's your purpose. Your like literal reason for existing is within your will.
Yeah.
It is the change you aim to bring about. And I think that's the important part with will, is it is always a change. Your nature might not require any kind of change at all to the world, right? Most people's natures are in alignment with the world. If we put it in Cooper terms, I talk about like an arcane nature, right? That's by and far the most common nature, which just means you're a thing that exists, and your spirit is derived from that thing. That's pretty normal. when we talk about will, though, it's a change within that, right? So it's drawing from your nature to change things, and every single act of magic you do always answers back to that will. So when we talk about like, well, why didn't this work? Well, is it really in alignment with your will? Maybe it's in maybe you as the monkey want that thing, and that's a part of it. But do you truly will it? Is it truly your being that desires this thing? And if not, then you can chant all the spells you want, but
Yeah.
you're just feeding elementals at that point.
Yeah.
Which doesn't answer the question of how do you then train that. But you do shit.
Well,
That's how you do it.
I
Would be
mean,
my answer.
the reason why I gave the answer I did was because I feel like if you do something like what I suggested, then but the act of doing that will reveal to you
Exactly.
what you really want and what your will
What does the
truly
magic
is.
end up doing?
Because you end up, when you repeat it like that, nature equals to yin, will equals to yang. I mean,
I get what you're
yeah.
That's not a terrible comparison. That's not bad, actually. But I guess to the point of kind of where you were going, Alex, in sort of my do magic point of you will find out how it works. So one of the frustrating things for me, I guess we could talk about this, is I am my will is much nicer than I sometimes would like. And so when I want to do something that maybe would like harm someone or would do something that maybe isn't super in line with my own will, I had to learn through trial and error what I can do and what I have to work around and how I can get around that. That's the fun part about being mortal, is you are not bound to your will. That's important to remember. It is a part of you. But like with all things, you can work around it. So, oftentimes if you have a will that lends toward collaboration, and your spells to do something yourself might often fail or really struggle, but a spell to summon someone who can help you will work incredibly well, right? That's when we talk about aligning with your nature or with your will. So to Alex's point of doing that sort of like almost purposeless rituals, right? And this is really common in a lot of like monastic training, where you're going to do repetitive actions over and over and over again, and you're maybe not going to be told why or what you're doing. But to Alex's point, you're building an enchantment is what you're doing, right? Any kind of repetitive action with intent over and over and over again will ultimately become a magic. That's just how it goes.
Yeah.
So what it does,
Repetition is magic. Yeah.
and so when you're not purposefully imbuing it with a structure, right? You're just doing the thing over and over again. Your will and your nature will be what informs it. It's part of why I talk a lot about like your first wand as a magician is your body, right? Your physical being colors everything you do. There is no human soul that exists that is a true blank slate. There's no tabula rasa among us. We are all perspectives. We are all angled. We are all shaped. And so you learn to work within what your shape is.
That like reminds me of like the really common, saying like swim with the current, not against the current.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that really applies here. It's like if you like, it kind of seems like to me like your nature is the current.
Well, so
in the direction it's going in.
But really, what this is, what we're suggesting actually is that you swim against the current for as long as possible until you can't. Then you'll be swept back, and you see where that takes you, right? Because eventually you'll give up. And like if you do this thing I'm suggesting with this talisman, eventually you'll stop. You won't just keep repeating it into the talisman forever.
Yeah.
Right? And then once you stop, then you stop swimming against the current. Then it's like you've been stretching out this like elastic rubber band with your will. And then when it snaps back, that's when you get the sudden enlightenment moment of, oh shit, this is what I am. This is what I really want. Right. And so, yeah, it's really like a way to access it's like you push yourself out so that you can get deeper insight into who you are.
Yeah, I think of it oftentimes as you're touching the water surface, and then your hand plunges into the water, and you realize that the surface of the water is not the water, but actually there's all of this stuff beneath it, right? The only way you can get there and start to really understand these bits and baubles of yourself is you have to push your hand through the water. You might find that you really like the water. You might find that the water burns your skin. You might find that it's full of fish. You might find that it's gross and slimy. But your
You might get a bunch
reaction,
of leeches attached to your hand as soon as you pull it out of the water.
exactly, it could well
That
be.
probably happens more often than not.
But that also tells you about you. How the world responds to your actions
Yeah.
is a reflection of who you are. And it's the hardest thing for any of us to do, for any intelligence to do, is to look at itself. We have no real true mechanism for that kind of self-observation. It's part of the beauty I would talk about of existing within the myriad, of there being no true one, right? Is that we can rely on the other to inform us about ourselves. But you also need to then maybe know what that goes way beyond the scope of this question, and I think we've rambled a lot on this. Practical exercises, any martial arts should be doing that. Go to the gym, start running, start painting, do a thing that requires repetitive, diligent action. That will help. People completely forget about the body. People get way too into. Sorry, girl, stop. What we need to do is somebody needs to republish the book. I'm looking at you, Llewellyn. I know you don't take channeled works, but they're good.
All right.
And then we'll have a good in-depth book too. Then I'll do an audio one. Oh, this is a hot topic.
Okay. This one says, I'd like to know about your experience as a trans occultist. What led you to transition/detransition? Any esoteric ontological insight into gender and body modification through this lens? Thanks. So, for anyone unaware, I used to be transgender. I lived as a transgender woman for almost 10 years. I transitioned when in 2015, and I detransitioned in 2024 officially. It's basic. I mean, I feel like my experience with this is going to be different than perhaps other people that are transgender. I mean, for me, eventually the hormones that I was taking started to cause this problem with my endocrine system, where I was in basically what they call like adrenal collapse. Like my body wasn't creating enough cortisol. All right. And because of this, they're like, all right, well, you can take, additional artificial hormones to supplement like what the function that your body's losing, or you can like stop and see if your natural system resets. And this was in 2022. And I chose the second one, to just stop everything and see what happens, right? I leading up to that, I had noticed that my intuition and my connection to spirits and like my magical ability had been like declining as my endocrine system was like falling apart, right? And so when I stopped, it was like I got this huge burst of power back, and I was like, "Oh shit!" I'm back. Like, wow. And so, now if my body had been able to tolerate the artificial hormones, without that, maybe things would have been different. But it was because it was just like damaging my body for some reason, right? And I don't know why. And there was one point where I was like afraid to give up the hormones, right? Because I was like, well, if I give up these, I'm going to start masculinizing. I'm probably going to end up eventually detransitioning. Right. And so I was like, I didn't want to do it. And I remember I went to the tarot cards one night about this, and I was like, all right, show me my relationship with these hormones. Right. And the first card I pulled out was the devil card. Right. And I was like, okay, I didn't really like that answer. I knew what that meant. And
On the nose.
so
Yeah.
then I went, I got another deck of tarot cards, and I shuffled them, and I pulled out the devil again. And I was
You
like,
tested the deck even.
and then I was like, huh. And so then I went to like an online tarot card generator, right? And then that comes up with the devil, right?
That's the one with the black and red card backs, wasn't it?
Yeah. That one.
Been there.
Yeah. And that one was the devil too. So then I was like, all right.
Fair enough.
All right. And it was, I mean, I could go on about like what I think. Like, I mean, I'm not going to get too personal with this, but I think that my experience with transgenderism and all of that was somewhat informed by, a kind of traumatic childhood to some extent, and I think that it's, I don't know. I'm not here to make judgments about like what makes someone transgender, what gives people these inclinations or anything like that. All I can talk about is my personal experience. And so I'm not trying to generalize, and I don't think this should be generalized to anyone else. But for me personally, it was something that I felt like I had to go through in order to, I don't know. Maybe it was pointless overall, maybe. And maybe that's part of it, is like accepting that, sometimes things are just like you go in a circle, and then maybe that tells you something about what this really is, but then if you look at it from a different, what looks like going in a circle is actually a spiral of progression, right, on another level, right? And so
that's the magician's ascent.
Yeah.
Right? Is you end up where you started. You don't stop being a person. You just went on a journey and you end up back where you were, but you're different than you were when you left. And I think that, not to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like that's kind of where you're getting, is like,
yeah.
was this I found my true self and this is what it was forever and ever and ever? Like, I think maybe the pop culture narrative around it is, and I think if you're in queer spaces, if you know a lot of groups, that is not really the vast majority of stories, whether we're talking about like transgender people or we're talking about sexual identity or yada yada. A lot of that whole, it's like a, how do you say, spectrum, and people are fluid and things like, well, but that also sometimes means that people are going to go back, or they'll be cyclical about it, or they won't land maybe where you think they're supposed to be. So I do think there is something still valuable in that, finding another aspect of oneself, whether or not that aspect remains the forefront of permanent self is a different question. I mean, we all go through those kinds of transformations. Like if I talk about myself 10 years ago, it's a very different Cooper. And I don't mean to make light of the specificity of the transgender experience and trying to universalize that. I get I'm maybe dancing into dangerous cis gay man territory, but I do think I'm a little more willing than Alex is to talk about like the mystical ontological side of that, where I would talk about Crowley in particular is funny about it, where he talks about like he was a fat little boy growing up. He was a fat man too, but he was fat when he was a little boy. And he had bitch titties. And if you don't know what bitch titties are, it's when you're a fat little boy and you have boobies. Yeah, moobs, right? Like bitch titties. So in his memoirs, he's talking about having grown up in a very feminine body, of having breasts, of being seen as meek and weak and lesser, and not meeting the masculine ideal that he was supposed to fit, informed his magical practice, because it is that feminizing experience. And so he goes through this period of life where he's seen as very feminine. And then if you know his later, like his 20s and stuff, like he's a famous mountain climber, like breaks records. He's
Really?
kind of this man's man. And so he goes to this other extreme of gender presentation, and he kills people. He causes many deaths. His life falls apart, and so he ends up kind of back in that weird gooey fat boy stage that he'll stay in for the rest of his life. And he talks a lot about that being very profound and informative, and that part of the mark of a magician is having this other gendered experience. Now, whether it's to the extreme of fully living as another gender for years, or exploring those roles, whether it's, you could talk about like drag performance as a form of occultism. You could talk about a lot of different initiations will have you take on the role opposite your gender, right? So men will be submissive to men within the hierarchy, whereas women will share their power within the hierarchy. And it's about this self-assertiveness, and you won't have, where you might have like a council of priests, a council of high priestesses tends not to happen, right? Because you're left to your individuality, which is the opposite of your gendered role. When we talk about the moon in magic, that role is to gather, to collect, to maintain, to have that order. So then to stand alone as a magician is to embrace the sun. And then conversely, for a college of priests to submit their individual solar authority to a collective sort of lunar council, this feminine ideal. That's part of that relationship. And so there's a lot to talk about playing with those polarities.
Yeah.
There's also something essential to, you have to have both. If you want to be a true, what I would call like a magician, if you want to practice magic, you can do whatever. But if you're going to be an actual magician, you have to understand both of these selves. And if you don't, you'll just fuck around forever, and that's fine to do that. But
it's funny you said that story, because it like that kind of mirrors my trajectory, right? Like when I was in elementary school and middle school, I was like very feminine, like very just naturally, like I was limp wristed, right? I was just like flamboyant, right? And then I got bullied and I got my ass kicked a lot. I got my nose broken several times. That's why it's like, you can still tell. And so then in middle school, I was like, all right, well, I kept getting kicked out of school for fighting. And then I would get in trouble at home because I didn't like fight back. And there's like, go on. And so then like they teach me how to fight. And so then I like overcompensated into this more masculine thing. And I learned how to fight. And then I started going around and picking fights with people just to like beat their asses. And then I became the bully, right? And I started bullying people, and like had to go to like, I actually had to go to bully counseling, or else I was going to get kicked out of school.
Wow.
Right? And then when I graduated high school, then I was in a position where I was like, all right, fuck everyone else. And then I was like, all right, well, look, if I'm actually a badass, then I can go around and cross-dress out in public, even in like a red state. I don't give a fuck. If someone tries to fuck with me, I will just get in their face. Right? And so then that was like the birth of like the transgender persona, where I was like cross-dressing at first, back at like, this is like at like age 19 or whatever.
Sure.
And I was like walking around. I grew up in a very, very like white trash, like right-wing kind of hick redneck town. But I was unafraid to, and people would start shit with me.
So bold.
But I didn't care. And then I kind of rode that until I had this experience where I had to come back, and I had to be like, I had to give it up because my body just couldn't take it anymore. I think I'd learned what I needed to learn, or something like that. I'm not sure. I don't really have an answer. It's mystifying to me.
Yeah, that's fair. You're still going through it, right?
Probably good to remember that, like, when we're talking about generally throughout magic, very few cultures up until the modern era have the strict gender split that we have. Like so in like I know the Greeks have 5. Um, I believe Jews also have 5.
Five genders?
What? Oh,
5 genders.
Interesting.
right.
Okay.
So like being a eunuch is a different gender than being male or female. Children are sometimes given their own gendered class. Sometimes people of a certain age, and then there's also like maybe what we were talking about is like gender queer is also a category that's accounted for in a lot of traditional cultures, right? So one thing that I think is also worth highlighting in this conversation is that this is not new. This is as old in magic as magic itself. Odin becomes a woman and has to get fucked, right? That is a central characteristic of how he becomes capable of being the god of magic.
It happens in Greek myths too. Yeah.
It's gender, particularly when we're talking in the ancient world, is so explicitly a performance. It is a role to which you are assigned and you perform. It is not a statement of self-being. It is an assigned form. And I think we've kind of really moved on in our own thinking ontologically to more of this is a statement of self. And I sometimes I do think that is in a magical context, a dangerous lens to take, because change is inevitable. Like, I get on this a lot with gay men in particular. So I'll talk about it in that context, where I really struggle with people who are like really, really hardcore into the top or bottom dynamic, right? Because in my mind, you're missing the point, right? You have both, and both fucking work when you slam them together with the other person's. 10 out of 10. You could be top and bottom, all of that. You have all of these amazing myriad of options and all of these ways of expressing male sexual desire. And you want to do the most boring, like you just want to pretend to be straight people, right? You're taking on these roles and binding yourself to them, which the whole point of magic, the whole point of becoming a magician is to break the rules that limit you and to be more and more human. And I often think a lot about embryos, right? So yes, you have an XY or an XX chromosome, or maybe other chromosomes. If you don't know, there's lots of them. But we're all pretty, what's the word? Androgynous up until pretty late into a pregnancy where sex starts to differentiate. And our bodies are very, very similar. When we talk about like sexual dimorphism among different species, human gender is barely
less sexually dimorphic than a lot of species. Yeah.
Like we're really similar. Our body structures are very similar, right? Testicles and ovaries are the same thing, just changed. It's why men tend to get hernias, right? Because our ovaries have to drop down into our testicles, and you have that leftover weak tissues there. There is something very important, I think. And you could talk about this in a heterosexual context as well, about the marriage ritual, right? So the marriage rite is literally taking the two polarities and joining them together into a third entity, which is superior to those other two entities. I often think about it is a neutral, it is a degendering, right? It is a return to that chaotic, amorphous, neither male nor female, that the true creative, generative chaos. That neutral state is a big part of it. We can talk about the Eleusinian mysteries, right? And ritualistic castration, women choosing to be celibate or not have children, things like that, as forms of gaining magical power. Like transitioning and playing different roles is inherent to the magical journey. I think acknowledging that gender is a role and that you're going to play with that in some fashion or another is important. It won't always be to that extreme. We talked about this. When I was a kid, I would get in trouble at school because I'm a girl. I'm not a boy. I don't want to be a boy. I don't like boys. I don't want to be a boy. That's not how I feel. And then I have a very distinct memory where I had my hair really long. It was to my shoulders. And I woke up and I was like, I want a haircut. I don't like how this looks. This isn't what I want to look like. And as they're cutting away at the hair and my facial features are starting to be revealed, and I'm looking at myself in the mirror and I have a moment of, I'm a boy. And I feel really good about it. And I'm like, oh, I like how this clicks for me. And that was the first moment where I was like, oh, I like this. And then I really struggled for a long time with, oh, but I like this. And I think all of these negative things about men and I don't like them and I think they're bad. And it took until then I went to Japan and found a version of masculinity that I liked and that worked for me. Then I kind of aligned those pieces, but I would never say I was wrong, right? Like I was still talking about girl Cooper all the time. Like they are parts of my full self being. Would I call myself transgender at any point? Probably not. Non-binary, no.
Well, since we are getting into labels and given your the comments on tops and bottoms before, I have to ask are you outing yourself as a side?
As a verse.
A verse, not
a verse? Wait, what's a verse?
Both. I like flip-flop.
Oh, okay. A verse is both the top and bottom?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Which I think is the correct.
There's also a side.
What's the side? Side is watch from the side.
No, it's like neither. It's
like, that's no anal.
That's no anal. So you don't like. I'm getting
suck, fuck, rub, toys.
Oh, okay.
There's lots of options.
Okay.
If you had a penis, I could teach you, but
are there?
A strap won't do. I mean, I probably would.
In the
They're a new thing. Dan Savage has done a lot of damage to the gay community, and Sides is one of his projects. I'm sure
that's why I'm saying it. It's kind of like a gay meme. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
To be honest, it's fun. Don't get me wrong. I'm all about that.
Yeah.
Anal's a little bit overrated, if you want to ask me, if we're getting really into that. But yeah, the verse is the
Maybe let's not talk about gay sex on the street.
I was just about to go further into that, so I'm so glad that you said that at that moment. All
right. Let's go on to our next question. So, love the stream with you three. Thank you. I learned so much, and I really appreciate your candidness. How can you tell if the cause of persistent health issues lasting 3+ years, showing no substantial improvement, is spiritual / magical in nature?
Well, I mean, the thing is that anything in your body is ultimately there is going to be some kind of spiritual component to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that you really have to address both with like a health problem. Like you can address the physical problem and you can address the spiritual problem. And if you address both of them, I think that's the best practice. For example, so I'll talk about this from personal experience. So my mother was in a extremely bad car accident where she almost died when I was about 11 years old, and she's never been the same since, and has been seeking out medical treatments for the last 25 years. And the times where she's been at her best is when she has been pursuing both the medical side of things and getting medical treatments and also doing like spiritual healing and stuff, faith, because she's a big she's into all of these like obscure heretical Catholic cults, and she goes to these like faith healers and shit like that.
That's cool.
And like I don't know, I'm not going to comment on the legitimacy of that, but it seems to help her.
Yeah.
And she seems to be at her best when she's getting both the physical side treated and getting these kind of spiritual work doing. And so, I think that speaks to the fact that any kind of ongoing problem is going to have both spiritual and physical components, and that you should really try to address both if you're and you know, it's just focusing on one to the exclusion of the other, you know, is not the best solution. Now, in terms of determining what it primarily is, if it's primarily physical or primarily spiritual, I mean, I guess like that you just have to do trial and error and see what seems to affect it the most, right? I don't know. What do you think, Cooper? How would you determine like whether your
For
problem?
me, the question initially, and it's, you know, it's not in here. Did it start related to something magic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did it just come on all of the sudden? Were you doing some kind of working and you got sick, right? Then I would maybe go, okay, let's start with magic. Usually, I would start with the fact that you're a human being and you're gonna die and you're supposed to die. So you get sick and your body breaks down and you die. Um, I think I sometimes have a very, I'll put it as a very eighth house view on healing magic and things like that, which is often, I think it's very difficult. I'll just say it that way. And the people who have a talent for it are very rare and very far and few between. Most people don't have the ability to do that very well. I would put myself in that category, right? There are very few things with magic that I would say I can't do. I don't know that I would say can't, but struggle and don't like and wouldn't bother with. And one of the reasons for that is because you're fighting against the nature of your body, which is to die and decay. That is what it does. That is in your cells, right? Like that that is how it works.
Yeah.
So when you're fighting that, or you view the inevitable decay of your body or the acquisition of disability from what is unfortunately a consequence of primarily American Christian spiritualism. So this came up around the moral hygiene, right? So this, you see it in Disney movies, right? Where if you're pretty, you're good, and if you're ugly, you're bad. Or the scraggly toothed, evil, ugly looking person is always tricky, but the beautiful but poorly dressed homeless person is the good person, right? It's this idea that physical disability or malady is proof of God's disapproval with you, or that you're bad and therefore you have a bad thing happen to you. I do think that feeds into a lot of sometimes how people talk about this topic of like, oh, there's something wrong with me. There must be a magical thing that's wrong too, right? Like, no, your body's supposed to break down. You're supposed to die. How do you deal with that then? In the same way that I would talk to anybody accommodating any kind of disability or acquired health condition, is like, what do you need around that, right? So if you don't say what your problem here is, but let's say you have chronic tummy troubles, right? So you're like Crohn's disease or something like that. Well, one of the things that I would then start to think about is, okay, well, what do we know the physical body do in that area magically? Well, let's go to our Kundalini line, right? Where are we at with our tummy? Well, we've got red, we've got orange, yellow's a little bit up here, so we're talking red and orange. Well, what do the red and orange chakras do? Red is our access point. That's where energy comes in. Orange is where it gets channeled. It's the processing, it's right. It's literally, it's our spiritual digestive tract. So if you have chronic tummy troubles, you probably have those kinds of issues spiritually as well. And so just in the same way that a doctor might recommend to someone with IBS or Crohn's disease or something like, hey, you should change your diet, or you might need to take this kind of medication or something like that. To someone who was a practitioner of magic and had that kind of physical malady, I would say you are probably going to need some kind of spirits to help you process things and sort of digest energies, right? You might want to work with other practitioners to do that. I have a lot of people come in who talk about, especially as they're getting older, it's harder to see, it's harder to do X, Y, and Z. Like, yeah, that's gonna happen. It's supposed to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Not supposed to fight it. You are supposed to lean in, which doesn't mean necessarily embracing I can't do these things, but it's adapting, right? and figuring that out. And so without any more specifics, I don't know that I could say that, but to the question of is it spiritual, magical in nature, probably not.
Yeah, probably not. It does remind me of like what I know about Korean shamanism.
Mhm.
And this doesn't happen to everybody, by the way. This is like pretty rare, but there's something called Shinbyung, which means the illness of the gods. And essentially the idea is that like if you're chosen by the gods, they're going to essentially try to persuade you into taking on the call of becoming their servants. And in that process, you get really, really sick. You can develop an autoimmune disorder. You'll
get
start
jumped
to,
in.
yes,
Yeah.
and you'll start to hallucinate. And I mean, hallucinate is like probably not the right word here. You probably are seeing shit, like real shit, but that does happen to people. And as soon as they take on the call and are initiated into the tradition, the problems do seem to go away pretty soon after.
Yeah, that was where I was trying to get. Thank you. It was if it comes on sudden, I would maybe start to think about magic, especially then if you can get rid of it quickly.
Yeah.
If it's been persistent for 3 years, you probably just have a chronic health issue.
Yeah.
Which I hope you are able to deal with, but I wouldn't look to magic to get rid of it. I know there are lots of people who make claims about like healed blindness, and I won't say it's impossible. I believe it. But that's big magic. I mean, we're talking miracle level magic, which
Yeah.
Although I have heard that Occult Hour, who was our guest in the second episode, makes candles to help your eyes. So if anyone is in the market for eye magic, which I have actually, my right eye is like at risk of macular degeneration, but that's a whole nother story.
I'm so glad you brought that up though, because thank you. That's a huge caveat. Theurgy is the only kind of magic that I would ever say you should, like, if you're going to do healing magic of any kind, it should always be theurgistic. You should always be conjuring a higher entity and petitioning them to do the healing, not I'm healing myself or I'm going to heal you. Like that kind of healing magic, I will stand by. So things like, to your point, some kind of like a sacred eye oil or whatever. When I lived in Japan, the local shrine next to me was the throat and eye shrine, and I have terrible allergies and like ENT problems. And despite living in Japan, which if you know Japan and allergies is a huge thing, they would after all of the firebombing, they basically planted like monoculture trees, and there's just a ton of pollen everywhere. But I didn't have any bad allergy issues at all because I just regularly went to Ike no Kami and did my prayers and gave him money.
That's cool.
I definitely want to add in that spirits are good at healing sometimes, higher spirits, but I would never ever attempt it as a magician myself.
Okay.
Unless I had to.
Yeah.
All right.
Been there, but
where to start with everyday magic? Okay, so here's one kind of everyday. This is something that I do every day.
Go on.
So basically, as you're going about doing like your normal routine, like your daily stuff, whenever you encounter an inanimate object that you're going to interact with in some way, you say hello to it and you wait and see what it says back to you, right? And so it's like, hello coffee cup, a hello car,
It's pretty schizo though.
But look, just try it, and eventually, if you do it enough, they will start talking to you. Right? So
go on. No, I believe you. I do believe you, but it's so fucking schizo.
Oh, it's goofy. Most magic is goofy.
It's so fucking goofy. So the thing about Alex is that he has such. I've never really I know people like this. A lot of them do tend to be Leo moons, but he has such a personal, close relationship with his belongings. They're everything is an extension of himself. And so to me, it's actually been very inspiring to me because I'm an Aquarius moon and I'm like, I am detached from everything, even though I'm a Taurus and I'm totally materialistic.
Well, I don't know. It's just sad to
Alex
see.
is an enchanter.
It makes me
his
sad
core.
to see like trash, like to see like
You
people
can't
having
throw
like
things away.
thrown things out and just like get rid of it. Like sometimes it's fine to do that, but I mean, I don't know. I've had the same television since 2007. I still have it. It still works.
It still works.
It's
Yeah,
good.
it works
It's like 720p. It was like top of the line in 2007, right?
Yeah, I bet it was.
Yeah,
you need to watch the series Gotcha
too back then. So that's as big as my monitor.
But I'm finally getting a new television this year. I'm buying one for the first time in how many years now?
I don't know, like
almost 18 years. 18
Yeah,
years.
18 years.
Close to 20 on that.
Your TV is 18 years old. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's a nodal cycle. One metonic cycle.
It's a legal adult. Yeah. It's reaching its nodal return.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it's going to be replaced.
I'm pretty sure Rahu was in Pisces when I bought it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Cooper, do you have? Oh, actually, for me, so where to start with everyday magic? This works for me, but I don't know if this is, like. I don't know if this.
Don't doubt yourself. Just speak with confidence.
Okay. I'm gonna own it. Showers. I think showers are great. I think like just like the constant exposure to water, I think helps with your psychic senses, and it helps you receive your downloads and get closer to your will. And I think that like even just being intentional when you're like taking a bath or taking a shower, or just being in water helps you to get closer to your will and get closer to what exactly it is that you want, what exactly it is you need to resolve, what exactly it is that you need to do. I think it's really great for like immediate next steps. And I think it's like it's like an easy way to get in touch with your nature.
I would agree. I mean, water is literally the element of will in my scheme. So I'll co-sign from here. Everyday magics. It's really funny. My first foray into magic teaching was a Tumblr account called Everyday Magic Every Day, which was indeed an account of magics you could do daily. I tend to call myself a folk magician. I think I would stick with that, even if that's not accurate. And for that reason, I think folk magic to me is where you should start. I don't understand why people want to start with high magic or like ceremonial rituals and stuff like that.
I think it's because it's all they know. It's all
yeah.
Too. So like they're thinking like, oh, if I want to be a magician, I need to do a ceremony.
I started with like like chaos magic. It was like mainly like in your head,
That's so funny because like, obviously I guess there's also the side of being a natural magician, right? So to me, I've never had a day where I didn't do magic. That to me, it's so crazy to imagine. Like what do you mean you didn't deal with spirits one day? That's fucking crazy. That's so hard for me to understand that I actually don't even know how to answer this question, honestly, because every action, particularly when you become a magician, right? So like maybe that's the difference between a practitioner of magic who does magic and a magician who is magic. Everything I do is an act of magic. My every thought, my every word is an act of magic.
You are the ritual, basically.
Right. So it's hard for me to maybe answer this, but I think to Alex's point of like talking to things or often what I will do is like sometimes I'll be bored and I'll change traffic lights. It's a fun little magic.
Traffic lights?
Mm-hmm. I was really the movie The Craft lives in my brain rent free, scene for scene. And so the scene after they summon Menat, and they're zooming through the intersections, and Robin Turney's character, whose name I can't remember, is like, "You're going crazy, Nancy." And Nancy's like, "I can change all the lights." Ah! And then she changes the one red light right at the last moment, and like they barely make it through because the other car barely stops. I've thought about that moment probably 100 million times, and really trying to like figure out how to do it. And like, funny enough, I was coming back from a long road trip, and I just really had to go to the bathroom, and I was like fairly close to home. The light in front of me was stopped, and so I was like, okay, I'm just gonna half-ass the magic. Like I understand how traffic lights work. I understand that it is all I need to do is make a couple of electrons move. That's all I need to make happen, and this light will change. And so I just did a fun little fire sigil, quick little invocation, and the traffic light changed. And so now I've just been experimenting with that, and I made it home, and I didn't piss my pants. So I was really happy about that.
Yeah. That's a win for you.
Yeah, like those kinds of things. Like I try to do magic. That to me is like, where do you
see
start?
if you can do it? Yeah. Just play around, experiment. That's why I love doing magic all the time, is to see if it will change things. Right?
And you will fail most of the time. I think that's maybe the thing that I would put here, especially in the beginning. You're going to fail.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, it's going to be a failure.
Yeah.
If you get to 50-50, you're pushing master magician territory. I do think that's also a thing we need to throw out there. Is like, no one hits it 100% of the time. That isn't how it works. Nobody, not even the highest order of spirits, gets 100% of what they want all of the time. That's the fucking point.
I mean, there's not even any, like, you can't even say that it's 100%. Even like the immutable laws of physics don't work 100% of the time, right? Like,
that's the fun of them. It's like the inflation period existed. What do you mean the rules of physics took a couple minutes to figure themselves out?
Pumpkin Spice says she wants to know how to curse corporations. Hi, Pumpkin Spice. Thank you for tuning in.
Hi, Pumpkin Spice.
We got your questions. I think I could tell which ones were from you. And there were a few that we cut out because we didn't know how to answer them. In terms of cursing a corporation, all right, this is what I would say is, why don't you use magic on yourself rather than on something else, right? Like, this is what, to me, it's like, so many people, like, they discover, oh, I've got this magic dick. Who can I fuck with it, right? And it's like, why are you doing that? Like, why don't you try to
just like fuck yourself?
Well, I guess.
Or recognize that maybe
consistent, it would be fucking yourself. But really, it's more like riding your own dick and coming because you're so awesome.
How did we cut me off on explaining what a side is?
We'll circle back to gay sex.
No, because we don't do that. No, ma'am. Dude, my people orgasm every time. That's craziness.
That is crazy. I agree.
The fact that straight women choose to have sex and don't have orgasms is cannot fathom. I would be so angry. I could never be a woman. I just couldn't. Never. Everything I hear about what women have to deal with, I'm just like, I couldn't. I would be such an aggressively militant lesbian that I would definitely have shot up a gym or something. Like, it would have been nuts. All right, let's go to the next question.
So this person says, I only missed an hour. Good evening, everyone. Slips in to listen and lurk. Hello, breakfast time.
You've been spotted.
And this person says, I love trying to manifest shiny Pokemon while testing good luck. I'm worried I'm using up my magic, but hey, shiny Goomy.
Can you use up good luck?
It's a great question, massive topic that you just walked into.
Uh-oh.
I would say one of the
We're gonna
core
keep this in
debates.
2 hours.
I know, and like literally one of the core debates of the last like 4,000 years of magical history.
Yeah. I mean,
My answer would be, in the short term, yes, but more of the MP bar slowly refills rather than it's a fixed limit.
Okay.
yeah. It's like when you're playing like Elder Scrolls and you're like spamming the spells and then your chi goes to like 0.
Right.
All right, and then you can't use any more magic for the rest of the fight. But then, like, as soon as you're out of that present situation, it starts to refill.
Right.
That mechanic is like more or less like reality,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. As breakfast I'm talking about. It's also good to, well, I guess sort of this is on that topic. If I'm going too far, just cut me off at some point. The other thing to remember is that your spiritual energy is one thing, right, to exhaust out. But then what starts to happen is other energy sources start to get exhausted. So you can get into a position where you are causing yourself a great deal of harm, or back to that like spiritual sickness question. One of the most common ways that people hurt themselves or bring about magical illness or things like that is pushing too far. So you're doing too many workings and they're way far too beyond your reach. And so you immediately exhaust what little spiritual power you have. The ambient magic around you is, assuming you even know how to make use of it, which you probably don't, it isn't enough to sustain you. And so then it's immediately going to start drawing from your life force and from other things that you have authority over. So if you have children, if you have a partner, particularly a married, like a spouse, you will also start to drain their energy and their life force.
Wow.
So it's good to remember that tying you like usually what happens if you don't have the juju to pay for the spell you're trying to do is the universe takes everything and then just gives you nothing. So it tends to be why I think wise magicians would always recommend a light touch first. To my point, like last week, of like, why would I not summon an archangel when you could just petition like a friendly saint or Jesus or something, like a much more accessible spirit? Because why would you do the hard thing when the easy thing is an option first? So that's my little caveat about pushing yourself. It is good to try things and do them, but like you can also overdo it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This is let's move on to another question, but this is like a whole topic that we should get into because this is really interesting.
It's like if you ever find yourself at the point when like you've done magic and it's like, I don't know, the problem is like you can get like I call it like a hangover, right? And the problem is like people will just like double down during the hangover instead of like just waiting for it to pass.
Been there.
You got to just like wait for it to pass.
Old Queen Spooky says, "Hell yeah, I love those easy things."
As you should. There's great wisdom in that.
All right, let's go to the next one. Okay. Oh, I'm really excited about this one. So
this is an intense one.
Yeah, this one's intense. I've had recurring dreams of global war with a futuristic entity for years, always as a different soldier sacrificing itself in different countries. I saw a black crescent with an eye casting a protecting shadow over a burning white earth. Hidden entities watched from space. You dreamt of wars too?
Yeah, so I think this is directed at me because I've posted about dreaming about the war a lot, and so there's this, according to Rudolf Steiner, like any kind of conflict that happens in the material realm first happens in the spiritual realm. All right. And that what we're seeing in the material realm is just like, it's just it playing out again in this world, but it's already played out spiritually. So, I mean, I guess if there is a war coming, it makes sense that people would have dreams about it first or spiritual experiences with it first. I mean, in terms of this war, I mean, but then there's like, I feel like there is and has been a war going on in the astral at least since, like, you know, the late 19th century, right? And Cooper, you might have more to say about that, but I don't know. I mean, there's different war. I mean, I've had lots of war dreams. I don't know which ones we want to get into, but maybe I'll stop talking, let someone else say something before I tell my dream.
Sure. I mean, I can jump in a little bit. So there's a lot that I would pull from that. I also think it's always good to open with the caveat of sometimes dreams are just dreams, right? Sometimes we just have a dream.
Yes, agreed.
Now, to put my woo-woo cap back on,
put the whole foil hat.
I mean, literally it is on. So I think so when Crowley does a lot, right? And I know I give a lot of credence to someone who I don't necessarily like. But I don't have to like you for you to have been good at magic. That's unfortunate. I wish I got to be the gatekeeper of all things, but I'm not. And one of his bigger workings was sort of this attempt to open the door to other realities, right? So
right.
Crowley, particularly early on, is focused on bringing in the new aeon, and like the Book of Law is all about that, right? And he later in his life, and particularly commentators on Crowley, will talk about his great failure and that failure to banish demons. But a part of that is also his failure to close the door, right? So he opens the door to the multiverse and he gets scared and he tries to slam it shut, but that doesn't really work. And so there's an idea in Western magic, particularly when we talk about like post Thelema, right? And so that brings us into spiritualism in the New Age when we're talking about broad strokes magical traditions. That part of the reason that these focus so much on what I would call transcendent or otherworldly entities as opposed to spirits of this world, right? So like gods are of this world, right? They originate here in one fashion or another, or are tied to this world in one fashion or another. But there is another kind of spirit which is completely outside. It belongs to its own reality, its own
Lovecraftian type of entities.
Oftentimes,
basically.
Yep.
Okay.
And so that's when I would talk about a capital T transcendent entity. So when we talk about UFOs, that would fall into that category. A lot of cryptids I would put into that. When we talk about a lot of sort of like the new age
type.
Yeah. And so after Crowley attempts these rituals, and particularly the Paris working is what I would point to as the where does this happen, right? Which is a big, massive occult sex magic ritual that goes on for days and days and days, and it's a lot of mixed wills, and they fuck it up for the most part. It worked. It produced a lot of results, but I would argue one of those results is that door has been left open, and I don't think you can really close it. And so we were talking about like the Black Lodge is maybe what is probably the term most people are familiar. If you go to Twin Peaks, that's where he's drawing from. It's an actual magic.
Also, Stephen King has written a book called The Black Lodge. The Black Lodge is basically a portal, right?
Yeah, or like it's
that's how
opposite of the White Brotherhood is kind of the idea. So Blavatsky talks about the Ascended Masters and the White Brotherhood, and then it's the Black Lodge is against them. Which is a little bit of, I think, her just repeating the left-hand, right-hand path thing. I think she's giving form to that, but she might also have just been onto something. the gist of which being the White Brotherhood is trying to lead humanity to ascend and progress, and the Black Lodge is then trying to manipulate and take over humanity to make it their own. And
what's happening right now.
Yeah, right. And so, you know, a lot of talk about like, well, why does magic start to move toward, particularly like the Fortean milieu? If you're not familiar with the term, that's like UFOs, cryptids, that kind of like supernatural, but without magic, right? It's not tied to the old spirits and the old gods. This reimagining of the world, and then you have the nuclear bomb, right? So it's this complete shift in the human psyche of we are not only are we capable of hurting ourselves, but we can truly end ourselves. And we can do it by manipulating physical reality on a fundamental level.
That's what Alex was talking about earlier too, with the
That fucks with how people view the world. We still have not really recovered from that. We're in it, right? That's what philosophers of the day are dealing with. They're not doing a great job, but they're dealing with it. And I think part of this conflict and part of the reason that the world is in the state it is in is because of the Black Lodge.
It's probably left the door open, essentially.
Yeah. And I would actually probably go more to like Hubbard wrenching the door back open. Like
Hubbard of Scientology.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a fucker.
Yeah. So if you know anything about the Moonchild ritual,
I mean, Hubbard's chart is so fucking crazy. Like when I was studying astrology, Ralph Lauren Hubbard's charts was one of the charts I looked at the most. I've spent so much time looking at that guy's chart. That guy is fucking. I mean, you know, you can love him or hate him, but you cannot deny that he was
master magician,
an insanely powerful magician, one of the best to ever do it. Honestly, we've got to give the devil his due. L. Ron Hubbard is, based.
I mean, even Crowley was like, well, I don't like him, but yeah, he's legit.
Yeah.
Right.
So I do think that's a lot of it. In terms of this, I think
like
the
Joseph
interesting
Smith
part
is another one. Joseph Smith's another one. Like in the L. Ron Hubbard vein. You know, where it's like you don't want to give him the credit, but you have to.
Most Mormon, like Brigham Young, obviously, I'm related to him, so I'm a little bit. We love him, but yeah, also.
I mean, honestly, Joseph Smith. It's the inspiration for the Jupiter coins I just put out. That Jupiter talisman is basically based off of the design of the Jupiter talisman that Joseph Smith was buried with. So it's
if you don't know, his family were
talisman, and so. Joseph Smith, and the person that initiated me into the occult was a former priest. He was actually there. It was insane, the story with the bishops and all of him with the Mormon Church, and he was supposed to be a prophet, and then he left the church. It was a huge
I cannot wait for my fourth act where I go back and become a prophet of the Mormon Church. I'm very so eager for that. As soon as they're ready for gays to be good, I'm jumping in.
Oh my God.
I'm a direct relative. I'm directly related to Brigham Young, but I'm from the branch of the family that cut from Mormonism. So I'm a big get.
Are you? Whoa.
That's a big get back.
Wait, I would die for that plot twist.
Yeah. Now
I'm absolutely willing to sell out.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
He's just waiting for the right price.
I have many times offered my services to the American government, but the CIA is not trying to get usurped. You hire one master magician and all those practitioners got to go. I'm really hoping the Catholics come around, but I don't see that happening. I definitely think the Mormons will have a revelation that gays are people soon. Black people became people in the 70s, so why not gays?
Maybe in a few more years, 30 more years.
It's me.
I mean, so before we move on from this question, should we talk about? There's basically you wanted to talk about this because
yeah.
So there's a war going on in the kind of astral realm, right? And there's like a like a compound, and this is like the first time that
Yeah,
Hope saw me in a dream is like at this compound.
Yeah. So
which is like a staging area in the war in the astral, and it's a place that I've dreamed up so much that I've drawn out a map of it, and I don't know, it's kind of like a base, I guess.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
Well, so
but the problem is you dreamed of it after the war, when it was like we were going back there.
Yes.
I've only ever dreamed of it during the war.
Okay, so let's give context to people that are watching. So Alex has these dreams where essentially he's in this compound and there's a war going on. And he's seen other people that he knows has had a dream in this same compound and has also seen Alex in this compound as well. So there's evidence and credibility that this is something that seems to actually exist in the astral or whatever. And so when Alex and I first began dating, I think it was like a few months in, I had my first ever dream about Alex, and essentially like I was in this, like, there were all these, like, do you guys know those buildings that they're like wooden crates and you just kind of like put them together real quick? You could just buy them at
corrugated steel
or Lowe's.
and wood.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Like a modular sort of
Exactly
building.
the construction
Modular.
of these buildings.
Yes.
That's exactly the construction of
So,
buildings, by the way.
I saw like a few of those, and it was barren. And I remember
it's a clearing in the middle of the woods, in their long corridors.
Yeah, they're long. I remember them being long.
Because there's two long corridors, and then there's like another third building that's like a mess hall to the north.
So I wasn't in the mess hall. I was in one of the abandoned like buildings, and I remember it was just completely like people had clearly like lived there, but they didn't live there anymore, and there was no more furniture. And there were all these like, and the place was haunted. I remember it being like haunted, and Alex was in the dream, and I was like, Alex, what do we do? And I had like all of these talismans in my dream, and I was like, which one of these is the one that I need to use? And Alex is very weird in dreams, because when he shows up in people's dreams, he's not really like a character in the dream. It's as if he's there just kind of watching you and just kind of listens to you and does what you want him to do if you ask, but otherwise he's kind of just there. And so in my dream, I was frantic. I was like, Alex, like, what do we do? And he just, he like kind of gave me something, and he had a gun, and he was kind of like leading me through the house.
The gun, I'll check. I can confirm that one.
Yeah.
Handgun, right?
And so, yes, yes. So, I remember telling Alex in the morning that I had this dream in this compound, this like and there was all these like abandoned like modular houses, and it was completely desolate. And yeah, we kept talking a little bit more and more back and forth about it, and I realized, oh, I was in your dreamscape, and I came into this like long running narrative after the war had ended. And yeah, the compound was not in good shape. I will say that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was bad. Yeah.
So whatever omen that is,
I like that people just sit in the middle of outer space when they find Cooper. I don't live in a bunker. I'm lonely on a hilltop.
Other people, I usually show up in their space, but my spaces are a bit weird, and there's a few different spaces you can find me, but the compound in the woods is one of them. Yeah. All right, let's go back to the questions.
Yeah, and you guys want to make this the last one because we're at 2 hours at this point.
Sure. I think this was the last big one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
No. Okay.
This could be what we end on.
Actually, this is the first of the rapid fire questions. Actually, we've done all of the ones that were supposed to. We were going to do an in-depth treatment on.
Right.
Because what is
Yeah, so if we want to do rapid fire, here's my answer here. If you don't want the life your teacher has, there shouldn't be your teacher.
Yeah. I mean, yes. Basically, ask yourself, does this person embody the things that I want to do? But also another thing, because it says I have a difficult time trusting. And I guess what I would say to this is like, what are you so afraid of? Right? Like, maybe just like do it, take a chance, see what happens. Like, I don't know. You don't have to like give yourself completely, right? But just like, I don't know. Like, magic is not for the faint of heart, basically. And so
100%.
like if you are afraid and like quiver at danger, like this is not for you. Right. So just like pack it up and go home. Right. If you don't, you got to have balls to do this kind of stuff, and you got to be willing to take the risk that everything could go wrong.
Well, the thing about magic that I'm learning increasingly is that you will often be put in dangerous situations. And especially when you're first learning. And that's also how you learn, right? You learn best when you're put in a tough spot or when you make a mistake. So that is, I do agree with what Alex is saying here. And rather, if the person seems like someone that you can learn from, like go into it and trust yourself. And try to develop your own what's the word I'm looking for, but your own will. I keep that really resonated with me.
I know this is supposed to be rapid fire, but the other bit maybe I would add here is ask them why. Why do you do this? Why do you want students?
Yeah.
Most magicians I know don't
want students.
Yeah. There's a point in life where you may take apprentices, but like all the time, bitch, I got shit to do. I've got great work to do. I can't constantly be wiping babies' asses and teaching first magics over, and I have stuff to do. So like if someone is always looking for neophytes and they're always seeking out new students and they're always looking particularly for low-level people, my question would be why? What do you get out of this?
I don't understand why people do that. I mean, I don't do that. The only people I've ever taught are people that have come to me and asked. Like if someone comes to me and asks, if I take a read of them and I feel like their intent is sincere, then I won't turn them away. I will at least make some kind of effort. I'll at least give them something, right? I might not give them the full thing, but I'll make an effort. I'll point them in the right direction at least.
Buy my book. That's the other answer.
Yeah. Buy Cooper's book.
This person's it is good.
Wait, let's read the question. So read it.
My psychic abilities and ability to see/hear spirits is the best when I take mushrooms. Are there any exercises I can do to get this ability when sober? I mean, so I've said before that like the way I kind of trained my spiritual sight and psychic abilities was through Rudolf Steiner's book, How to Know Higher Worlds. There's a lot of practical exercises you can do in that book to train your spiritual sight. And I keep recommending that book, and I will keep recommending it because it's probably one of the most transformative books I've had in my journey. So I that's my answer to this question, but other people, you two might have different answers.
Well, I think that like developing my psychic abilities is something I've been doing a lot more in the past year. And what I've learned is there's always like little games out there where you have to guess where the ball is, right? Or like what's underneath the egg, or like what's underneath the brick. And there's also games like Remote Viewing Tournament, which is an app that you can download. So there are like games and apps out there that you can download so that you can hone in your psychic ability and get a grasp on what the pattern is for how you're able to get something right. And the other thing that I would probably mention is that I do think that meditation helps a lot with being able to see things or hear things, or get messages. So like getting into a state of like relaxation with your body and focusing on the sensation of each of your limbs and extremities, I think helps. And also like focusing on like each of your chakras, like something I do that's like a really like basic practice is like I'll think about my root chakra and I'll say to myself, I am secure. And then I'll move up, and then it'll be like my sacral chakra, and I'll say something like, I create. And something about like also going through each of the chakras, I think helps me to get into a more meditative state where I'm better able to begin to see things, whether I'm looking for like a lost object or whether I'm trying to figure out like which one of these three options is the correct one, something of the sort.
I wrote a book, and the first 3 sorceries are all to do this. So buy my book and then skip to the end and read sorcery 1, 2, and 3, and then you won't have any more issues. I know that's a smart ass answer, but I literally wrote the book so that I wouldn't have to explain it again. So
Yeah.
It's fair enough. Okay.
Okay, so does the worship of certain deities correspond to the worship of certain planets? For example, if you worship Jupiter, is that basically worshiping Athena because of the common theme of wisdom? And what about Persephone? All right, so I mean, I think the thing is this a little backwards here, right? Because it's like, all right, so let's say that, you know, you've got like a god like, you know, Aphrodite, or a god like Freya, or something like that, right? If you worship one of those, could that be maybe like essentially you're worshiping a form of Venus? Maybe, yes.
sure.
But if you are worshiping Venus directly, does that mean that you're also worshiping Freya and Aphrodite? No. Right? So it's like the planetary thing is like a force that emanates out these other entities. And so the force is like the source of all of these different like fractal expressions of the same energy, right? I don't know. Would you agree with that, Cooper?
Yeah, that just So I use the term planetary powers, right? So like particularly
forces, powers, basically.
Yeah, whatever you want to call them.
Semantic thing, yeah.
It's the same idea, which is Zeus Jupiter? No. Are there forms of Zeus that intensely embody Jupiter? Yes. Are there forms of Zeus that embody the sun? Yes. Are there forms of Zeus that embody the moon? Right. So the gods are not the powers, but the gods are comprised of the powers. So when I would think about the 7 trad planets, and I would even throw the shadowy planets in,
Ketu,
and then you can start to get it even more complicated with I would talk about those as powers in the same way that I would talk about different types of elements when we're talking about like molecular chemistry. So does she have a lot of the Jupiter element in her? Yes. Does she also have every other element in there? Yes. Gods are complete, right? They're perfect. So every single god could be understood, and every single god possesses one aspect of the planetary powers at least, right? Because that's how the world works. That's what the planetary powers are. They are the basic energetic forms of all things. And so if you understand the astrology of the luminaries, right, or the origin of everything, they are the halves of the self, form and being, right? The sun and the moon. So and then you've got the sex derived from that, and you've got the good part and the bad part of that thing. And then you've got Mercury, who's in the middle and says, I like to mix it up. Those are powers. They are concepts. Gods are specific contextualized manifestations of that. They're I would say much more than that. The flip side of that being, if you're doing a magical working and you specifically want planetary Jupiter versus Roman Jupiter, which are very different entities, then go with the planetary magic, right? That's your good luck. That's your Jovian. But literally, Jupiter is kind of a dick. If you've never worked Roman rituals, don't recommend it. They're very fucking irritating. They're so picky, so fucking picky. The Greeks are fine, but the Romans are irritating. But yes, to answer this question, no. Persephone is much more than Venus. Would I say, of all of the powers, which is most like Persephone, I would probably say Venus or the moon, depending on my day. Athena is most like Mars, for the record, not Jupiter. Amazon is the best place to buy it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Llewellyn, I'm open to a second edition.
Yeah. The comment is, where can we buy your book? That'll get you the biggest cut.
Amazon, my dear, thank you so much.
Okay. All right, let's go to the next one.
Yeah, next question.
Okay.
Will you be creating a Venus in Pisces talisman in 2026?
Let's go to Alex.
This is probably for me. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. However, I mean, Venus in Pisces, the next time we'll have Rahu also in Pisces. And so I'm thinking that, so Venus Rahu gives me like MDMA vibes, you know?
Yeah.
And so, you know, I feel like I could make a talisman, like a Rahu Venus talisman that's like just supposed to like heighten any kind of sensory experience that you have, right? And I think that could be good. And so I might do that, and I might make a batch as an experiment, and if they work with testing them, I might sell them. So basically, I'm non-committal at this point. I think I might experiment with it, and if it goes well, I'll sell them. I've got other talismans that I've been experimenting, like I did Mars and Scorpio recently, and she's interacted with the Mars and Scorpio talismans, and it was crazy because when I did the Mars and Scorpio, my intent was, have you guys ever seen The Sword and the Stone, the Disney movie, The Sword and the Stone? You know, the witch that's like the antagonist in that movie, right? Yeah. That was the spirit that I attempted to put in these Mars talismans, right? And then she when she's like meditating with the Mars talisman, she's like, she starts describing, she's like, I see like this like ugly witch with like this pig nose and this green skin, and I was like, really? And she's like, yeah, it looks horrible. And I'm getting excited because I'm like, oh fuck, you know, I hadn't told her. And I was like, oh yes.
The only good Sword of the Stone is such a specific deep cut, but it is, as far as like witchy visuals go, it is a deep
cut. Totally. No, I was surprised because, and I was also kind of seeing like Malevolent.
Oh, it's supposed to be Malevolent.
Yeah.
So this is the most evil talisman I've ever made. It's specifically for this purposes are basically attacking and warding, and like it's supposed to automatically return any magical attack with vengeance, and also it will it's used for necromancy. I need to test the necromancy part of it. I haven't done that yet.
No, you don't. You leave the dead alone. Sit here in front of me and talk about I need to practice necromancy. No, you don't. Not while Cooper's listening.
All right, next question. We move on. Okay.
Is there another way to honor Rahu?
Is there a way to honor or otherwise work with Rahu and Ketu? Do you recommend it?
So I mean, I think that, you know, if you're not going to deal like, if you're not Hindu or Buddhist or whatever, then I would say that the best way, if you actually want to do it, would just the Bij mantras, the Om Ram Rave Namah, like the basic mantras are fine. And then, like for Rahu specifically, things that help with Rahu are like, all right, you want to keep the bathroom clean, especially the toilet. You can put out like black beans. Yeah, put black beans in a dish on the counter. That helps with Rahu.
Also a silver square helps with Rahu remediation, I think, as well.
Yeah, with Ketu, it's mainly about like feeding like stray dogs, stray animals. That can help with Ketu.
+1 merit kind of shit.
What'd you say?
+1 merit, like, oh, if you did a good thing, like that's much more the Ketu vibe.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of like, directly worshiping these entities, I mean, I don't know if you should.
Why would you?
I mean, it's so they don't really want you to worship them, I don't think. Rahu and Ketu are.
They're not like that.
They're like bodhisattvas, They're like, I don't know.
I would put it closer to the intelligence. Their functions. It's that's like, so the. This is my big gripe of like we need to honor and worship. Like, you don't have to worship something or honor it to engage with it. So there's that, like, but even then I very strongly hesitate to give the calculated points personalities. And I get the lunar nodes have actual bases, but they're primarily just calculated points, right? Like,
well, yes, so the nodes are not, they're mathematically derived points, yes, and they're more like regions in the sky rather than one specific point. That's more like a general region in the skies, like the nodal region. But because the nodes have a wider orb than any other planet, like the node,
they're shadows.
Yeah,
right?
the node of the orb is like 30 degrees.
And they're shadows of the moon in particular.
Degrees, so it's like it's super wide, right? So that's the one thing. And then but the nodes themselves, they do have an energy. Like, all right, so these rings that we're both wearing right now, these are the Rahu rings, right, that I made. And the ritual I did to try and invoke Rahu and kind of conjure Rahu into these rings, which is like, and it's basically like the intention here is like, all right, the ring was supposed to be a kind of like a sheath for like focus and protection in spiritual pursuits, and also to like basically bring about destiny and like just kind of cash in on. I decided to put it all on black and be like, all right, I'm betting I've got good karma, so give it all to me now. All right. And that was the wager on this ritual. And it was still the most insane ritual I've ever done. And when Rahu appeared, it was nuts. He had 10 heads and they were all like devouring each other. And there's like, they were all like this psychedelic, like fractal thing where it's like warping in on itself, and the whole room filled up with gray smoke. It was crazy.
And he's worked with Pluto, so
Rahu was the coolest. Rahu is still the coolest one that I've ever invoked. I mean,
intelligences are fun.
What'd you say?
I said the intelligences are fun. The operative powers of the universe are terrifying. They're way scarier than any god or entity I've ever conjured, in my opinion.
Yeah.
By whatever names you want to call them, there are many, many, many you could use.
Yeah, they are intense, aren't they? So it says, what does it mean when you ask the universe for a sign about a situation and a stranger ends up oversharing about the same hyper-specific situation that happened to them decades back, but it had a positive outcome for them that gave you hope, but a depressing one for you, good/bad omen? I'm not quite sure what that means, but sounds like a synchronicity. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think my answer would be, how did you interpret it? What did you choose for it to mean? That's so much more important than like, I need like, does this track in my book of omens? Like, oh, this is good, this is bad. No. So also could sometimes you're just drawn to people that are similar because you're similar, like attracts like. So that sometimes is it, but I probably would read it as a good omen,
Yeah.
right? Like they had a positive
It
outcome.
sounds encouraging. It sounds positive. It sounds like what
It sounds like you're
is good.
like trying to shit in your own cereal. Like you want me to tell you that this is bad, but like they said it was good.
Yeah. Seems
You
good
asked
to
for a
me.
sign, and the result was it works out in the end, and you're like, "But should I be sad about that?"
Yeah, I would.
If you want to be fucking miserable, don't bother with magic. Let me put that. Like, if you don't ever want to hear yes, if you don't want to hear like, yeah, this is good, like you have reason to hope, please don't bother. Like, if you just want to be sad, just do that. And I know I'm being a little bit harsh with this, but like, broad strokes, I hate these kinds of questions of like, is this good or bad? I don't get to decide that for you. Should I do this or should I do that? The whole point of magic is that you decide. I don't. What do you mean?
Yeah.
What do you want to happen?
I mean,
Do
and
you
that's
want this
so.
to be good?
Well, that's so empowering
I-
to like say out loud, you know, because like I think there's a lot of people that experience so much anxiety and fear and like loss of control of their lives that like even if they're given like the best possible omen, they'll still doubt it.
Mm.
And I think
Yeah.
like the core of like your guys' answers here, and I will give like my like sign off on it too, is that like you get to decide what that meant. And at the end of the day, like if you're a magician, like you're going to make of that and make that into what will serve you and your will and your nature. So
Yeah, I mean, this is a question we got since the stream started, right? And this says,
No one can read that.
I am intimidated by doing magic, but I'm also fascinated. Any advice? And you know, this is the thing where it's kind of like, well, all right. Well, I guess I had this happen to me recently where I was speaking with someone in the DMs on Twitter, and they were asking me about doing magic, and their family was like, they came from a spiritual background, like their parents were like Tibetan Buddhism and various things. They'd been exposed to a lot of stuff, and they're like, wanted to do magic, but I've always been kind of afraid to do it. And, you know, I told them, I was like, well, look, dude, if you're afraid to do it, then maybe you shouldn't do it.
yeah.
Right. You know, like, maybe it's not for you then.
Yeah.
And me saying that to him, actually, like, I think maybe gave him some impetus to go out and try it, because it was like, well, you know, and so, and then he reported back, and he's had like, you know, a really cool kind of mind expanding experience that he's like, you know, growing as a person. He's like thanking me for talking to him about it, because it set him on this path.
Yeah.
And so what I would say is, it's like, you know, what I would say to this person is like, what are you waiting for? Are you pussy? Right? Why, like, come on, you know?
Yeah.
Well, and then so Zhao A58 says, just yesterday I had a situation just like that. I took action according to that omen yesterday. Today I doubted if the omen was for me or not. So this being discussed right now is very funny timing. I would take this.
It's for you if you decide it's for you.
Yeah, I would take this as a omen that like you take it as a good omen. You know,
own it. Grab it.
Don't doubt it. Yeah. All right. Okay. Next question. Okay. Best way to do a cord cutting? Would visualizing be enough, or literally cutting a cord, of which the two ends are tied to two pieces of paper, my name and their name?
So, I mean, I think
Cooper's face.
actually doing a
Cooper's done.
No. I just don't understand where people come up with the magics that they do. Like, this is so specific, and I'm like, are you playing Harriet the Spy? I don't know. It's fine. Sorry. It's not a bad ritual idea. It just
Harriet the Spy. Well, I think like I can see where this question is coming from, because I think like when you, like for me, for instance, like I think like my first magical book that I'm reading, like actual practical magic, is your book, Cooper. And so like for me, I really get a lot of my own like information on magic from like X or from YouTube. And you're just kind of, you hear all these things that come at you, like, oh, you can just visualize it, or you have to actually do a cord cutting. So I can kind of see how like it can be difficult to like
yeah, that part's such a valid question. Sorry, I just got literally cut up on the end because I'm picturing, you know, when you got two cups and like a string between them, you're like,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Oh,
instantly where I went, and I was like,
I was thinking, I had the same mental image.
okay, that's where I was at. I kind of forgot about the first half of the question, which is a great question of the visualized versus actualized magic.
I mean, so
Sorry.
what I would say with the cord cutting is that, I mean, you can use something to cut it. If you want, you can break the cord yourself. That can be better sometimes. I mean, basically, the idea is, I mean, some people use a mirror with the cord cutting stuff. Some people take the cord, hold it over a flame of a candle, burn it like that. There's a lot of ways people do cord cuttings.
Sure.
Well,
I don't understand the objective. I mean, I do know what they're talking about, but I would suggest that that's probably not going to work. And wouldn't you know it, most folks I know who do new agey cord cutting rituals tends not to work out super well for them.
yeah, it doesn't really work.
Right, because the issue is that
Cord cuttings.
you still have the connection, right? So like the past still exists, and the present is all of the past at once, right? So what I think what people want to do here is a banishment ritual, but they're scared to take that action and actually say, I'm pushing you out of my life, right? So what they're doing instead is this passive imagining of, I'm severing the end between us. I don't know the fucking English word for it. We don't have an English word for it. Connection, the tie, the spiritual tie between the cord, right? That's what they call it.
Yeah.
So, but the whole point is, particularly like in Eastern magic, when we're talking about these connections, is that they're never severed. They can't be severed. That's the point. Is so to interact with something is to forever be changed by that interaction. And physics, funny enough, plays this out, that like theoretically, if you knew every law of physics, you could look at any one molecule at any given moment of time and discern every single interaction that singular molecule had, if you knew all of the laws of physics, right? We don't, but we can still discern a whole lot of past actions just from molecules, because everything that interacts with something else is forever changed by it. So this idea of like
ontology, basically.
Yeah, for me to tell you like, okay, you're just gonna sever it and you're gonna be done with this person, like, it's ridiculous. You worked an act of magic centered on that person. All you've done is deepened the tie. You've just made it more antagonistic. So I would maybe suggest things like banishment rituals or binding rituals. I would talk about, maybe more direct malefic action if you were really like afraid of this person. But usually the better approach is to make them go away. Like, right, not to end the connection in terms of cutting it off, but end it as provide a resolution.
Yeah, I mean,
my answer.
I'll say that the times that I've attempted to do cord cuttings, have been because someone has been like harassing me and irritating me, and I've tried to do that, and then they didn't stop. So the ritual,
Yeah, because you have to use a banishment ritual on them. Cut their damn tongues out. Sorry, I'm a little too witchy today.
All right, let's go.
All right, what's our next rapid fire here?
Yeah.
All right.
Or we get, I knew.
Okay. So far, I've been only doing candle spells with kitchen herbs and some crystals, but I want to grow more. What could be the next logical paths / fields I could go into? Thanks.
That sounds just fine. What's wrong with folk magic? What are you trying to do that hasn't achieved?
I mean, I think the things would be like, what are you interested in? Right. That's what I would say. Like, what do you want to do? Right. You know, I like, you know, working with spirits and invoking spirits and invoking intelligences and powers and stuff like that. But that's not for everyone. So it's like, it's a matter of what you want, what you're interested in.
I also don't love the implication here, and whoever asked this question, I'm not ragging on you, because this is very much a way people view it. Is that like folk magic is somehow lesser, or that like kitchen magic is somehow inferior to like goetic conjurations or something like that? It's not. Why is the next step fancy math magic? Like why is that what you're trying to do? Then yeah, sure. But the vast majority of my ritual, I would say like 95% fit within what you're talking about here. Very rarely do I bring in other stuff. Yeah, maybe we'll expand kitchen herbs to shit you can find outside. Why do you need more? Keep practicing, develop your craft, refine it. It's not always about leveling up to the next thing. It's much more about refining what you're doing. And then that goes back to the question of what do you want to do? I know a lot of magicians who have their great work is not inventing a new magic. It's not mapping the Enochian superverse, right? Like my goal as a magician was to create a new divinity, and good on me, we did that. That's an absurd fucking goal. The vast majority of people will never want to do that kind of thing. So you would have no need to go and do the things that I did. If your goal is to live a happy life and have a good home,
that's all
you're already there.
Yeah. Yep.
Why go become a nuclear physicist? You don't need to.
Mm-hmm.
This one says, when will the Venus and Libra talismans come out? Can I have one? Yeah, the talisman, me and Hope made these. Well, I will put them out. I honestly don't even know because so many people have asked me about them and sent me emails that I need to see if there's going to be any left to even post for sale publicly. But, I basically look for an update for that in 2026. Yeah. Does a Venus-Pluto conjunction on the degree doom someone in love and marriage? No. That's the answer. The answer is no. Yeah.
You will have very intense relationships and have very, very intense feelings during relationships, but that doesn't doom you to, never getting married and being happy, right? Having a happy marriage or being in a happy relationship that's long lasting and meaningful. It doesn't doom you to that. It just means that you are going to have like intense relationships.
Honestly, I mean, Venus Pluto could be hot, especially if you're
Venus Pluto can be really hot, actually. Yeah. I mean,
the Venus-Plutus conjunction there very much strikes me as like they've been together for 70 years and they're not married and they don't live together, but like they're deeply and madly in love. Like that we're like, does it speak ill of traditional marriage? Yeah, you're probably not gonna do the picket fence and like your monogamous heterosexual marriage and you're gonna pump out 2.2 kids. Like, probably not.
Yeah.
Does it mean your love life's gonna suck? No, to Alex's point, it means your love life's gonna be nuts and really intense.
Yeah.
It's probably gonna be a lot more entertaining than most people's.
Yeah.
But how you respond to that's the question. Do you try to force yourself to live a life that doesn't fit you, or do you find someone who's okay with being wandering partners who do their own thing and come together when they come together? Like, yeah, it isn't going to be the normal life, but it definitely doesn't doom you to anything.
Okay. What are you guys' thoughts and experiences with vampires? I mean, I don't really have any.
I've had no experience.
I'll give you psychic vampires, but if you're talking about like Buffy vampires, I don't got anything for you.
I think it's Buffy vampires.
I wish that was real, but it's not.
I mean, I had someone tell me a story about that she supposedly came into contact with these real vampires that drink people's blood. They were in like...
I mean, look, there are people who call themselves vampires.
Yeah.
Ritually drink blood and do like a psychic type of blood, you know, but they're not like hundreds of years old. And
they say they are sometimes. I mean, yes, there is a magical... I don't want to talk about those ones. But yeah, there are people who are like, no, I'm the spirit of a vampire who's 7,000 years old on the astral plane. I'm that, but here I'm this dumpy fuck, and I get
right. Like I'm saying to be a 8-year-old anime girl, but really I'm like an 8,000-year-old vampire. Yeah,
which I get. I'm a little bit guilty of that, where I'm like, I'm this dumpy fuck, and I'm also a god of magic, but I'm not really asking you to buy it, and I'm not trying to drink your blood. So, you know, whatever. So psychic vamps.
A lot of them don't even know that they're doing it, honestly.
And the ones that do are fucking insufferable. You know who I'm talking about. and her, I feel like that's not the pronouns anymore. That fight for vampire rights is fucking nuts. As an autistic person who is like diagnosably annoying, right? Like I get it. I'm not. I'm difficult. I'm draining to some people. I don't think it makes me magical. I think it just makes me difficult. And having had a conversation with some of those people who are like really into the psychic vampirism thing, I would mostly just say you have a personality disorder. And like you just need a lot of attention. Like I wish your parents loved you in a healthier way. But I'm an asshole, so.
So this says, I impulsively bought one of Alex's Jupiter talismans and almost immediately got a headache that made it difficult to sleep that night. When I did sleep, I had a vivid dream about a purgatory type place where Alex made an appearance. Is this an omen or do I just need to drink more water? LOL. I mean, I guess what I would say to this is that, I mean, this seems like, you know, maybe you're like kind of tripping yourself out a bit. But also like purgatory doesn't exactly seem like, you know, like not the type of place I would be. Right. So, you know,
I mean, it sounds like the compound that we were just talking about.
They are in your damn bunker, and you know exactly why, Alex. Stop playing dumb.
This is magic after all, right? Like if you are looking for someone that's like holy and saintly and pure, then you've come to the wrong person, right? Like that is not me. Like I am,
Luciferian.
Well, you know, there's no
an attorney.
Use those labels, right? Yeah. I'm a lawyer, for Christ's sake. If that doesn't tell you that I'm fucking soulless, then what?
If you were not looking for morally neutral advice,
I'm a criminal defense attorney. I represent
literally the devil's advocate
on the planet. People that kill people, people that rape, people that rob, people that like these are the people that pay me money, right? These are
for whom you are Jupiter. Let's also just put that in the context. You are their fair and just representation.
100%. He has like a super close trine between his natal Jupiter and
but the reason why I do that is that I believe that everyone deserves help, right? And my position is that if you're only helping the good people, then that's fucking easy, right? You know, and that I would question is whether or not you even believe that like helping people is a thing that we should value. Because if you only help the people that it's easy to help, then do you really think that helping people is that important? Right? You know, if you really thought that helping other people is important, then you would help anyone that needed it, no matter who they were. Right? And that's where I'm coming from it. Right? And that makes me anathema in the eyes of God. Right? So there you go. That's what I would say.
I would say that you bought a Jupiter talisman made by a Martian magician. And you got drafted into an army. And so you got sent to Astra boot camp.
I mean,
And
honestly, that sounds pretty on brand. Yeah.
Yeah, have fun.
I mean, I think it could also, you know, what I'm saying could very well easily line up with, you know, with being good. I mean, like, isn't it Jesus that said that, you know, we should, you know, he was the one always with the sinners and all of that, right?
Something like that.
You know, that sounds okay. I'll use that as a justification.
All right, let's go to the next one.
Yeah. Favorite daily magic ritual. We kind of covered this.
I was going to say, yeah.
We already did that.
You know what? Can we go back to that for 2 seconds? Here's my honest answer. I don't do rituals daily. I think that's I mean, for people who like that and stuff, like, great, but don't break your back. Like, oh, I didn't do a magic ritual today.
Yeah.
Ritual work is the least important part.
I mean, so I do one ritual a month. That's the only ritual I do consistently.
Yeah, but that's different.
I do one ritual on the waning 14th lunar phase every month.
I'm just laughing.
Yes, old Queen Spooky is correct. More water is always a good idea. I'm very chronically dehydrated. My doctors are not happy about it.
Okay.
All right, let's see.
All right, actual move on.
What transits can I look for to get a sense if it's good to pursue a romantic connection? Is it possible for love to occur even during bad transits? I would say that this is, if you want to know when is the best time to meet someone, book a reading with me. I wouldn't say that ordinarily, although my books are now closed.
His books are actually closed
until the second quarter of 2026 because I've actually answered this question enough that I'm sick of answering this question now. So I don't know.
I mean, my 2 cents to this would be that I think that traditionally people think that retrogrades are a really bad time to start relationships. And I think that just there isn't like a black or white answer to that. I think that a lot of great relationships can start during retrogrades. Like Alex and I got together during a Mars retrograde. I told him as a very much Aries Venus fashion that he was my boyfriend on the full moon, on the Cancer full moon when Mars was retrograde in Cancer. So, and you know, we're super happy together, and that was a Mars retrograde relationship. I mean, to be fair, I think that Mars functions as a benefic and a malefic in my chart, and I do think that's like an extra nuance in astrology is that like your malefic planets can function as benefics as well. They can bring in good things. So my 2 cents to this is just that like there are bad transits, but like what people will say on the timeline about like don't get into a relationship during Venus retrograde or Mercury retrograde or Mars retrograde is kind of bullshit because it really depends on your own birth chart.
Well, also the reason why it's bullshit is that the retrograde periods are good, everyone. Like the retrograde is when the planet's power is increased.
That's true.
And that's when you can tap into it. I like the planetary retrogrades. Like Mercury retrograde is awesome. Venus retrograde is awesome. All right. I got another question from this that I hadn't. So someone said, since we started the stream, it said, you know, how did you do the ritual for Venus to heal you? I would like to try so I can eventually find someone who isn't awful like my exes? And the answer to this question is I prayed to Venus to heal me every day for the entirety of her retrograde in Leo, all 40 days, right? That's the ritual, right? And so the retrograde are times when the planets are especially active and especially accessible. And I love doing magic during the retrograde periods with the planets. I think it's great. And also Venus is not the only planet involved in relationships. A lot of people's Venus is very oriented towards money, which is, if that's the case in your chart, Mars is going to be the one that ends up bringing you more partners than Venus. So it's a complicated thing.
I would throw in other complicating factors like who's the Lord of your seventh? What kind of relationship are you looking for?
Right.
A good romantic partner is not always a good marriage partner, right? Like ideally you want all of the above, but sometimes what you're looking for and maybe what would be good for you aren't the same. So I would throw in like, well, what is the condition of the Lord of your seventh? So
Yeah.
like for yours
Also, do
truly,
you have any planets in the 5th? Do you have any planets in the 7th? What planets are opposite your moon, if any? Those are gonna play a role too. Okay, so
All right, next question. Are geometry teachers more likely to join the cult of Saturn? This
No.
seems like a William Birkin question.
He's not
I would guess the
here.
cult of
on the
Mercury.
chat,
I
though.
know.
I know.
I'm so sad Willie's not with us.
I
know,
know.
me
He
too.
was,
Bastard
he
umbrella
was a good
scientist.
chatter. We miss you, William Birkin. I'm excited for the new Resident Evil game to come out, by the way. I'm really looking
Are they
forward to
just
that.
doing the stupid shit with the... What are they doing? Are they... Well, I'll talk about it later. Next question.
Okay.
All right. Please explain the difference between morning star and evening star planets. Thanks. Okay, so this is all right. This is a question you could probably Google, but to humor you, morning star means that the planet rises before the sun. So if you go outside in the early morning hours, 4, 5, 6 a.m. before the sun rises, and you can see the planet above the horizon, that means it's a morning star. If the planet is visible after the sun sets, right, then that means it's an evening star. Now, the planet that was most commonly referred to as the morning star was Venus, right? And but technically, you can apply this morning-evening star distinction to each of the 7 planets, not just Venus. However, Venus does seem to change the most in her nature when she goes from morning star to evening star. And morning star Venus is the warlike Venus. Evening star Venus is the attractive, comely, joining Venus, right? So Venus is called the morning star because the contrast between the form she takes when she's a morning star versus an evening star is it's a sharp contrast, much sharper than any of the other planets. But this is a distinction you can make with all of the planets. And it has to do with whether or not they come before or after the sun in zodiacal order, whether or not they would rise before the sun and be visible or set after the sun and be visible at night. So that's the answer to that. Moving on. I have no idea to this question. I don't know.
What's the best
I haven't
in
looked at them.
2026? No idea.
Probably whatever one is most useful to me at the time.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is like broad strokes, the astrology for next year is that it's basically like, so January and February will be like kind of okay. And then like March through September, it's like total dog shit. And then after that, it's good again. So yeah, that's my 20,000 foot summary.
That's fair. All right, the last question.
What
aspects or signatures in a chart indicate problems with the father and the mother? Thanks.
That's
So
another Google one.
yeah, this is another Google one. But I mean, long story short, it like problems with the mother you would see with afflictions to the moon. So if the moon is in the 8th house, the 12th house, the 6th house, if it's aspected by Mars or
Yeah.
Saturn, whether or not it's a sextile
So-
or a trine, honestly, is still an affliction.
Technically, the ancient Greeks do say that if the chart is a night chart, then the moon is the mother. If it's a day chart, then Venus is the mother. That is something that is said in the old text just to keep in mind. But I tend to use the moon as the mother always. I don't really use that rule, but that is something to keep in mind. But go on.
Yeah.
What you're saying.
Yeah, and then the same goes for the sun, right? If your sun is afflicted, it's receiving an aspect from Saturn or Mars, or again, it's in like the actually 4th house is one of the tough houses too. So 4th house, 6th house, 8th house, 12th house. It's gonna be afflicted. So it can indicate problems with the father. I mean, but yeah, you can look to Venus, I guess. Also 4th house, if whatever planets are in the 4th house could indicate relationship patterns or events that have occurred or persist with your parents.
Other broad rules of thumb to keep in mind with the planets, with the sun, the thing that hurts the sun the most is Rahu and Mars. The things that with the moon that hurt the most. So if the moon is full of light, Mars is going to hurt it the most. Saturn won't hurt it as much. If the moon is low in light, then it's the opposite. Saturn will hurt it more, but it will be more immune to the effects of Mars. So that's important to keep in mind with the moon. So when you're evaluating the mother relationship, if you see a harsh aspect to the moon from Mars, you might think that causes a bad relationship with the mother. But that's actually not true. It will only cause a bad relationship with the mother if the moon is also full in light. If it's a low light moon and it's getting afflicted by Mars, it's not going to hurt the mother. So that's an important rule to keep in mind. And that one actually fucking works. I've been using that rule for the last 2 years in readings and it's never failed. So yeah.
Cool.
Right. Cooper, any other? Do you have?
I was gonna say I don't have a ton to add there. I tend to follow the chart sect rule for discerning which parents, but I flip it so it's the sun and the moon always for me, but their roles will flick depending on your chart. So that's another, I guess, way.
Like if they're day sect, then it's
father, mother, and the night charts. I'd flip it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I haven't heard that rule.
I don't know if it is a rule. It's just a thing that I do. It's worked for me. In its ways. The other thing I've seen people talk about that I maybe would hold to my own chart is Saturn being the father figure for night charts, where you've got the Venus Saturn thing instead of the Sun Moon.
Yeah, no, yeah.
I've found a lot of success with
that. Case. I think that is a rule that in a night chart, it's Saturn that's the father. Yeah. Just like in a day chart, it's Venus that's the mother. Yeah.
So there's lots of I would always encourage you to look at the houses. So I tend to be a lot more like 4th house lord, 10th house lord would be a lot more influential in my mind in terms of your mother and your father, with the 4th house lord being the mother and the 10th being the father. But yeah, lots of different ways that you can look at that.
All right. Well, I think we've got all the questions, and we went 45 minutes over what we said we would do.
That's pretty good.
That's actually really good.
That's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
We were 3 hours over last week, so that's great.
That Wingstop afterwards tasted so good. Oh my god.
I bet it did. Oh my god, I need to eat after this.
Yeah, I'm hungry too.
Yeah, we need to go eat too.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us, Cooper.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have fun.
And yeah, everyone, thank you so much.
Thank you guys for tuning in.
Sending in your questions.
And sending in the questions. I'm sorry we didn't answer everyone's. Although I do feel like Pumpkin Spice is probably still watching. She wants to know how to curse a corporation.
Which one?
Help her out, Cooper.
Send me a DM.
Okay. All right. Well, have a great night, everyone, and we'll see you guys next.
I was gonna say, are we doing it next week, or are we coming back?
I feel like we should probably just like come back after the holidays, maybe. I don't know. That's what I've been thinking. I don't know, because next week
it was at the 19th.
The 19th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think it'll depend, right?
We'll see, but most likely
next
week.
About it. No. I mean, I think I would rather do the 20th next week if we're gonna do. I'd rather do Saturday night if we're gonna do it next week, just because my friend is having a latke party on the 19th for like Hanukkah and stuff, and he makes really good latkes, and I
so you have to go.
I kind of want to go to the latke party next Friday. So, you know,
you're going to curse an insurer is crazy. Good luck. They're fucking demons. Well, I'll think about it. Pumpkin Spice came in. She wants to. I assume she's talking about American Income, the life insurance company.
Are you saying that I'm going to a demonic latke party?
No, I'm saying insurance companies are evil.
Right.
Demonic latke party.
Jewish people, I don't think are demonic. I think they're mostly Jewish, but I definitely think corporations are notably demonic.
Yes.
Particularly
corporations are definitely demonic. I don't know. Yeah, I mean the Jews. I'm pro-Jew. Yeah, definitely.
I'm strongly neutral. I like Jewish people. The religion I'm not so keen on, but that's fine. You're not trying to recruit me, so do you?
They scam bets. Look, I don't want to hear the anti-Semitism on this channel, okay?
No, she's Alexander.
About American Income.
I shouldn't have said it. I knew as soon as I dropped that 4-letter word that it was going to be a bad idea.
All right.
What are you talking about?
All right. We should.
I'm talking about good night and
good night, everyone's salute. Salutations.
Be very careful with that salutation, Alex.
What?
Your arm was a little long there.
We need to go.
Do not.
We need to go. We're gonna go.
Do not, bro.
Cut the air.
I'm gonna get to my latke party. Okay.
This is ridiculous.
Just because you eat the food doesn't mean I gotta stop.
We're going.
I was about to make a very bad joke.
What?
I'm gonna mute myself and make the joke. So.
Fuck. Oh my god. All right.
Cheers.
We're gonna go.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye, Cooper. Bye everyone.